Chapter 1122. P.S. Update complete. Li Hanyan shook her head and said, "You're courting death. Dream on." She disappeared in a flash and appeared behind Zhao Chuan. The middle-aged man's corpse fell to the ground. Clang! Suddenly, the sky was filled with cold light. A dazzling sword gleam pressed towards Zhao Chuan like a huge snowball. Ding, 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 ding. Zhao Chuan was not a weakling either. He drew his sword and blocked more than 10 strikes. He looked wretched, but his martial arts was top-notch, especially swordsmanship. Ugh! A muffled groan was heard. The sword gleam in the sky suddenly faded. Zhao Chuan clutched his throat and stared at Li Hanyan. Li Hanyan pulled the long sword out of his throat and shook it lightly. The blade was as bright as new. Then she sheathed it. These two movements were elegant and calm. She stared at Zhao Chuan and shook her head. "Your swordsmanship is far from it." The people hiding in the dark had a change of expression. Zhao Chuan's dark parasol divine sword was unique. Although he was not at the level of Du Feng of the south or Chu Li of the north, he was still a first-rate master. However, he was killed by this little girl within a few moves. Li Hanyan glided back to her original spot and bent down to pick up the middle-aged man's corpse. Wait! A shout was heard. A red-faced elder appeared and blocked Li Hanyan's path. "I'd like to learn a thing or two from you." Li Hanyan frowned and straightened her back. She looked at him impatiently. "Who are you to Zhao Chuan?" "I'm his master's uncle." The red-faced elder said in a deep voice. "I'm Zhao Feng. Come on." Li Hanyan unsheathed her sword and pointed it at Zhao Feng. "You people from Dark Parasol Mountain are quite bold. I'll pay you a visit after this." As soon as she finished speaking, she appeared in front of Zhao Feng in a flash. A ball of sword gleam enveloped Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng wanted to see through her moves first, so he used a defensive stance to defend himself. His defense was impenetrable. Buzz. It was as if a swarm of bees had flown past. The sword gleam disappeared and transformed into a sword that pierced the left side of Zhao Feng's chest. Li Hanyan slowly retracted her sword. With a shake of the blade, the shiny sword returned to its scabbard. Zhao Feng's eyes widened as he clutched his chest, his face full of unwillingness. What kind of sword technique is this?" Li Hanyan took a step back to the middle-aged man's corpse and bent down to pick it up. With one hand holding the head and the other holding the body, she said casually, "The snow lunar sword. It's just an ordinary sword technique from my sect. Your Azure Mountain is too weak." She was satisfied. Since Big Brother Chu had established his dominance, she should also establish her dominance on behalf of the Snow Lunar Pavilion. She should strengthen their influence and let them understand their limits, know the immensity of heaven and earth, and quickly scram. Snow, moon, sword. Zhao Feng clutched his chest and fell to the ground weakly. Blood gushed out of his mouth as he said unwillingly, Good sword technique." Li Hanyan scoffed. "I'll pay a visit to the Azure Parasol Mountain." "Humph! How dare a little kitten or puppy come to our Snow Lunar Pavilion and cause trouble?" After saying that, she glanced at the people hiding in the forest. Her gaze was as sharp as a sword. Seeing that no one jumped out from the forest, she carried the corpse and floated away. Everyone in the forest felt a chill in their hearts as they were shocked by Li Hanyan's sword technique. Although they were afraid of Chu Li's previous abilities, they were not surprised. After all, the title of Chu Li of the North and Du Feng of the South was not for nothing. Naturally, he had amazing skills. However, a young girl from the Snow Lunar Pavilion was so powerful that it made them feel a chill in their hearts. What about the other disciples of the Snow Lunar Pavilion? Would they be more powerful than this young girl? Would those famous disciples be more powerful than her? They were no match for her. They would just be courting death. It was evening when Chu Li appeared in the Tianshu courtyard. Shao Qi and Shao Shi were waiting. When they saw him return, they looked at him with 4 clear eyes. What happened? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li sighed. Heavenly demonic sect did it. Heavenly demonic sect. Shao Qi frowned. How could it be them? She could not figure out how heavenly demonic sect could be the culprit. She had always thought that it was the secret Guardians Hall, a martial arts sect that secretly sided with the imperial court, or a martial arts sect that wanted to take advantage of the situation. She did not expect it to be heavenly demonic sect. After all, Chu Li had disguised himself as Zheng as a disciple of heavenly demonic sect. Heavenly demonic sect thought that Du Feng was Zheng in disguise. Heavenly demonic sect and Snow Lunar Pavilion had no enmity. It was to provoke Zheng and benefit his heavenly demonic power. Chu Li said coldly. He felt guilty. No matter what, Xu Qingye's death was unjust because of him. Furious killing intent surged in his chest, but it was forcefully suppressed by the omniscient mirror. However, it would occasionally surge up. Only by killing Fu Qingya from heavenly demonic sect could he vent his anger. Shao Qi said coldly, "Ridiculous." Shao Shi asked, "What are you going to do, Chu Li?" "Miss Xu was implicated by me. I'll avenge her." Chu Li said, "I'll go to heavenly demonic sect right away." "Where's Chief Chu Li?" A voice suddenly rang out, echoing through the sky that was filled with the sunset glow. Chu Li frowned. A young man in a green robe stood outside the main entrance of King En's imperial residence. Not only did their punches fail to injure him, they even helped him. Lu Guangdi used the momentum to move forward. His speed was twice as fast as before. Before they could catch up to him, he had already arrived in the sky above the Tianshu courtyard in the blink of an eye. "Halt!" With a shout, Zhu Tianhua's gigantic body rose into the air as he charged towards Lu Guangdi. However, Lu Guangdi abruptly turned around and did not meet Zhu Tianhua head-on. Instead, he fell straight down, coincidentally dodging Zhu Tianhua's attack, causing Zhu Tianhua to miss, while Lu Guangdi landed on the ground calmly. "Step down!" Shao Qi's cold voice rang out. "Yes, madam." Zhu Tianhua helplessly replied. Zheng lied, and the others chased after them in a fluster, but they were coldly glared at by Zhu Tianhua. Zheng lied felt helpless and sullen as he scoffed. "This brat is too cunning." "His martial arts are stronger," Zhu Tianhua coldly said. He glided back to the courtyard next to the Tianshu courtyard. Zheng Lide's face was flushed red, but he could not do anything. He could only glare at the Tianshu courtyard and see what would happen to Lu Guangdi. They were aware of the head chief's wife's martial arts. In front of Madame Chu, they were not even worth mentioning. When Lu Guangdi landed in the Tianshu courtyard, Shao Qi and Shao Shi had already put on white veils to cover their faces, only revealing their bright eyes. Shao Shi and Shao Qi sat by the stone table and lazily looked at him. Meanwhile, Suru, Liuxiu, and Menglon were behind the two girls, sizing him up. Shao Qi stood up and said, "You're trespassing the imperial residence. You're no different from an assassin. No one would say anything even if you were killed. How dare you?" "Hee, if I want to challenge Chu Li, of course, I need some courage. After all, Chu Li is too famous now." Lu Guangdi looked at Shao Qi with a hint of frivolity. "Let's not talk about Chu Li's martial arts. His romantic encounters are really enviable." Shao Shi said, "Younger sister, this guy should just be crippled." Shao Qi nodded. "Lu Guangdi, you came here because you heard that my husband's martial arts were crippled, right? Didn't he recover?" Lu Guangdi stared at her face, as if he wanted to see through the white veil and see her face clearly. Could it be a rumor? Xiao Qi said, "Looks like I've wronged you. You're not the type to kick someone when they're down, but my husband is busy and has no time to spare. You should find someone else to be the Tide Listening Pavilion's successor. Dufeng is a good choice." He Dufeng. Lu Guangdi smiled and shook his head. "I need to be able to find him, too. You don't have that kind of ability, but you have the ability to come here and provoke us." Xiao Qi said, "Your Tide Listening Pavilion's antique study is the rolling wave palm, right? Looks like Madame Chu cares a lot about our Tide Listening Pavilion." Lu Guangdi smiled. "That's right. I'm an expert in the rolling wave palm. I'd like to see Madame Chu's antique study." Xiao Qi stepped in front of him and pressed her palm down as fast as lightning. Bang! Lu Guangdi stepped forward. Before their palms met, their palm energies had already collided in the air. Lu Guangdi smiled as he looked at Xiao Qi, but he was secretly shocked. He was born with a mystical ability that allowed him to read other people's thoughts, just like the Buddhist mind-reading ability. Therefore, he always took the initiative in everything he did and was able to predict his enemy's moves, giving him an advantage when facing his enemy. He felt that with this special technique and the Tide Listening Pavilion's exquisite martial arts, he would be able to dominate the world. Therefore, he came to Fairy's capital with great ambition. When he heard of Chu Li's reputation, he was overjoyed. He felt like someone had sent him a pillow while he was asleep, and Chu Li was the stepping stone he wanted. He relied on his special technique, so he had a precise grasp of people's hearts. He was able to handle things with ease, and his actions were somewhat wild and unrestrained. He felt that the world was big, and he could take whatever he wanted, and everything was up to him. When he saw Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi, although he could not see their faces, he could see the admiration in Zheng Lide and the others' minds. He sighed in his heart. It was like sticking a flower on a pile of cow dung. These two stunning beauties were already married. He felt that taking down Xiao Qi would be a piece of cake. Once the woman was taken care of, the man would naturally come out. The flat wave palm was strange and mysterious. It contained the essence of the virtuous like water within it. The palm energy was like a raging wave, one wave after another, unceasingly attacking. In an instant, it could attack multiple times. It was impossible to defend against it, and it was almost indestructible. However, he did not expect Xiao Qi's palm energy to be so pure and solid. The rolling wave palm energy was like a raging wave crashing into a reef. It could not be broken. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. Xiao Qi stood on the spot, while Lu Guangdi could not help but take 2 steps back. Chapter 11:24. Xiao Qi said coldly, "Don't waste your breath." Again. She threw a punch. The two of them got closer, and the fist energy instantly reached Lu Guangdi's chest. Lu Guangdi quickly put his palm in front of his chest to block the slender, white palm. Bang! Lu Guangdi took 2 steps back. His handsome face darkened, and his eyes shot out a cold light. He thought that Xiao Qi was beautiful, but no matter how beautiful a woman was, he could not stand above her. She had to bow down to him. Xiao Qi's heart technique was mysterious, but she was able to block his eye of insight. How despicable! Moreover, everyone in the courtyard could block his eye of insight, so his most powerful trump card could not be used. As expected of the imperial residence, there were many strange people. There must be something strange about Tianshu courtyard that could restrain the use of divine power, which made him feel restricted. To have a chance of winning, he had to leave Tianshu courtyard. However, leaving Tianshu courtyard was useless. Xiao Qi's heart technique was mysterious, so despicable. In his anger, He no longer showed mercy. Instead, he wanted to kill her. So he pushed his rolling waves palm to the limit and attacked first. Shao Qi said, "I'm best at swordsmanship." As soon as she said that, the sword on her waist flashed and stabbed Lu Guangdi's chest. Ding! Lu Guangdi's shirt was torn open, revealing his heart protection mirror. The heart protection mirror was only the size of a palm, and it looked like white jade. Shao Qi's sword did not leave a mark on it. Lu Guangdi fiercely pushed out his palm before turning around to leave. Although he seemed to be walking slowly, his speed was surprisingly fast. In an instant, he arrived outside of the Tianshu courtyard. Then, before Zheng lied and the others could react, he had already disappeared. He ran away quickly. Shao Qi took a step back to avoid the palm energy and sheathed her sword. Shao Shi shook her head. What a cunning guy. He ran when he saw something was wrong. He's a powerful person, so you have to be careful. Shao Qi said, "This guy is a bit strange." Little sister, is the Tide Listening Pavilion's martial arts this powerful? How can a secluded faction be so famous? How can they not be powerful? The Rolling Waves palm really lives up to its name. She knew that Zheng lied, and the others would not allow Lu Guangdi to barge in, but they could not stop him. Even Zhu Tianhua could not stop him. Lu Guangdi's wisdom and martial arts were outstanding. He should behave himself this time. Shao Shi scoffed. They probably won't give up. Shao Qi said, "They'll still look for Chu Li. Then we'll have to watch the show." Xiao Shi smiled. If Chu Li were to return, he would not let this frivolous brat escape. He would definitely cripple him. Chu Li arrived outside Heavenly Demonic Sect, but did not enter the ravine. Instead, he raised his voice and shouted, "Where's Du Feng?" His voice was like a spirit tiger coming out of its cage, shaking the world. The whole mountain forest seemed to be trembling because of his shout, which was mixed with the supernatural power of the God-stunning roar. He was not worried that the disciples of the Heavenly Devil Sect would not hear it. "Where is Du Feng?" Seeing that no one came out, Chu Li continued to shout. Heavenly Demonic Sect repaid kindness with ingratitude. "Du Feng, do you have the guts to meet me?" His voice spread far and wide, and it seemed like he could be heard from a dozen miles away. Chu Li had displayed his extremely profound inner energy and cultivation level with these few roars. He had done it to summon Fu Qingya. Ordinary Heavenly Demonic Sect disciples did not have to come out because they could not even withstand a single blow from him. "You're a guest. Please enter the ravine." An elder appeared and gave a fist salute. "Sect leader invites you in. Lead the way." Chu Li said coldly with a dark expression. The elder's eyebrows and beard were all white, but Chu Li did not recognize who he was. He had not seen him in the ravine at Heavenly Demonic Sect. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw that his cultivation level was ordinary and his internal organs were very young. It was obvious that he was a young man in disguise. Chu Li did not mind. The people of Heavenly Demonic Sect could change their appearance at will, so it was most inaccurate to judge someone based on their appearance. The two of them passed through a cave and arrived at the ravine. Chu Li glanced around and scoffed. "This is where Heavenly Demonic Sect is located." "That's right," the elder said. "However, outsiders can't enter. I haven't asked for your name." "Young Master." "Chu Li, so it's Young Master Chu." The elder walked in casually. It was obvious that he had not heard of Chu Li. Chu Li followed the elder to the Basilica of Heavenly Demonic Sect and saw the Heavenly Demon statue. Fortunately, he had used the life and death scripture to hide the Heavenly Demonic power completely. Otherwise, the Heavenly Demonic power would circulate slightly in front of the Heavenly Demon statue, and he would not be able to control it. This was the wonder of the Heavenly Demon statue. There were 5 people sitting in the basilica. They were Fu Qingya and the four grand elders. They were staring at him coldly. Chu Li gave a fist salute and said, "I'm Chu Li." "I'm Fu Qingya," Fu Qingya said. "Chu Li of the north and Du Feng of the south. I'm quite famous. May I know why you're here?" He had learned about the situation in the Ji dynasty because Zhou Ying was disguised as Du Feng. When he heard Chu Li's shout, he was shocked and did not dare to be careless. Chu Li's cultivation level was so high that he had to show up personally. Although Chu Li was not an enlightened master, the four grand elders could not handle him. Chu Li scoffed. "Sect leader, you know about Snow Lunar Pavilion, right?" Chapter 11:25. Elder Du said, "We don't know where Zhou Ying has gone to. No one can find him, so don't waste your time. You're here for the reward from the Ji dynasty's emperor, right?" Elder Bai sneered. "You're not here to question Zhou Ying, but to kill him. Am I right?" Chu Li replied, "That's right. Not only do I want to kill Zhou Ying, but I also want to kill all those Beastards from Heavenly Demonic Sect. Since you want to kill us, there's no need for us to hold back." Elder Bai said, "Heavenly Demonic Sect never shows mercy to our enemies." Then he pounced on Chu Li. The other three grand elders pounced on him at the same time. Chu Li's cultivation level was higher than theirs, so they were not confident in fighting him alone. It was safer for the four of them to work together. Besides, they did not need to care about their reputation in the basilica. All they needed to do was to capture him and kill him. Although they disagreed with Fu Qingya's decision, they would not speak up. In any case, they did not care about the survival of the Ji dynasty's sects, so destroying a sect was not a big deal. Chu Li sneered as the obscure sword at his waist flashed. Elder Du's eyes widened. The tip of the sword was already in front of him, and he could not avoid it. Ding! A slender, white finger hit the tip of the sword and deflected it. The tip of the sword slid across the side of Elder Du's neck, leaving a bloody wound. He quickly covered his wound and retreated. It felt like the cold air was still lingering around his neck and was about to pierce his throat at any time. His throat tightened, and he dared not go any closer. Fu Qingya charged at Chu Li like a ghost. Chu Li used a mysterious step technique to counter him, and the obscure sword flashed. Ding, 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 ding. The tip of the sword and Fu Qingya's fingers clashed as if they were playing a pipa. There was an endless, rhythmic sound. Chu Li's body movement technique might not seem as fast as Fu Qingya's, but his sword technique made up for it. His sword technique was exquisite and mysterious, and he stabbed his sword at unexpected spots at the speed of light. If it were not for Fu Qingya's swift body movement technique, he would have been stabbed long ago. The four grand elders took a few steps back and looked at each other. Even a genius like Zhou Ying was no match for the sect leader. However, Chu Li, who was about the same age as Zhou Ying, was on par with the sect leader and did not seem to be at a disadvantage. Ding, 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 Chu Li said coldly. "I'm going to kill you today to avenge the disciples of Snow Lunar Pavilion." "How arrogant!" Fu Qingya sneered as he flicked the tip of his sword. "With your current abilities, you're no match for me. Let's see." Suddenly, Chu Li's body expanded, and his sword shone brightly. Then his speed doubled, and he easily pierced Fu Qingya's chest. "Sovereign!" The four grand elders were startled. The dust-light sword chi exploded, and fragments flew everywhere. Fu Qingya's body expanded as he activated his heavenly demon body. He lowered his head to look at his wound and sneered. "Your sword can't hurt me." Chu Li's palm landed on his chest. Fu Qingya did not mind it at all as he took the hit head-on. Most importantly, the heavenly demon body had been activated all of a sudden, causing his body movement technique to become a little sluggish and not as agile as before. Furthermore, Chu Li's attack was sudden and swift. Bang! Chu Li landed a solid hit on the right side of his chest. Fu Qingya widened his eyes in disbelief and pointed at him. He fell to the ground unwillingly. He recognized that the attack just now was the demonic spirit devouring technique and the enlightened master's energy. Sovereign, Elder Du and the other 3 grand elders ignored the danger and rushed forward. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood. The heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique had spat out a trace of the enlightened master's energy that it had devoured. Not only had it severely injured Fu Qingya, but Chu Li had also suffered a backlash. He fully activated his heavenly demonic power and ignored his injuries. He grabbed Fu Qingya and flashed away like a ghost to avoid the 4 grand elders' attacks. Then he called out, "Honorable masters." As he spoke, his appearance suddenly changed to Zhi Ying's appearance. Then he slammed his palm on Fu Qingya's chest. The heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique activated again and continuously devoured the heavenly demonic orb. You. The 4 grand elders were dumbfounded. Chu Li smiled as he devoured the heavenly demonic orb. "Honorable masters, you don't recognize me? You're Zheng?" Elder Du asked in disbelief. Chu Li nodded. "That's me. You can't be Chu Li, right?" Elder Bai asked. Chu Li replied, "I'm Chu Li." The 4 grand elders frowned as they were confused. Chu Li continued to devour the heavenly demonic orb. "Chu Li has always been me." "How?" The 4 grand elders were in disbelief. Chu Li said, "After I killed Du Feng, I disguised myself as Du Feng and went to Snow Lunar Pavilion. I fell in love with a lady, but the sect leader found out and sent someone to kill her. I must avenge this." "What's going on with Chu Li?" Elder Song asked. Chu Li replied, "I was the one who disguised myself as Chu Li. I snuck into the Ji dynasty's public house and killed the original Chu Li. He was a lowly servant, so no one paid attention to him. It was easy for me to disguise myself as him and unknowingly become the chief." "Impossible." The 4 grand elders shook their heads. There might be a glimmer of hope elsewhere, but it was impossible in the Ji dynasty. This was because the Buddhist sect in the Ji dynasty was flourishing, and the Buddhist sect was very sensitive to heavenly demonic sect disciples. Once they discovered them, they would not rest until they were dead. Heavenly demonic sect disciples could only sneak around in the Ji dynasty and could not encounter any Buddhist sect disciples. Chu Li scoffed. "Why is it impossible? I had a fortuitous encounter that allowed me to completely conceal the aura of the heavenly demonic power. No matter how powerful a monk is, he won't be able to detect me. I even have a monk friend now." The 4 grand elders felt that Chu Li was spouting nonsense. Chu Li pursed his lips and said, "You'll know whether I'm spouting nonsense or not if you check it out. I'll take my leave first." He turned around and was about to leave. "Wait, let go of the sect leader." The 4 grand elders regained their senses and quickly surrounded him. Chu Li disappeared in a flash like a ghost, not giving them any time to react. The 4 grand elders looked grim, but they believed Chu Li. Chu Li had performed the heavenly demonic power just now, which was exactly the same as the heavenly demonic power that Fu Qingya had performed. The heavenly demonic field would only appear when one had cultivated to the latter half of the 9th level. This is too. They began to discuss among themselves in disbelief. They already knew that the sect leader was dead or alive. Zhou Ying would not let the sect leader go if he had the chance. Who would have thought that the sect leader would end up like this and be defeated by Zhou Ying? However, the sect leader had gone too far by killing the woman that Zhou Ying liked so that his inner state would not be complete. It was obvious that the sect leader was afraid that Zheng would surpass him, so he had resorted to such underhanded means. It was fine to destroy a small sect, but it was too much to kill the woman that Zheng liked. Compared to the sect leader, they were closer to Zheng. After all, they had raised Zheng since he was young, so no matter how cruel Zheng was, he would not hurt them. Chu Li disappeared with Fu Qingya and reappeared in a cave. This was a cave halfway up a cliff. Howling winds could be heard from outside the cave, as if countless people were crying. The cave was clean and tidy, and there was a stone bed and a stone table. A white skeleton was sitting cross-legged on the stone bed, but there were no martial arts secret manuals. Chu Li placed Fu Qingya on the stone table and continued to devour the heavenly demonic orb. Once the heavenly demonic orb was devoured, his heavenly demonic field instantly expanded to 100 meters wide. A cold force was injected into Fu Qingya's forehead, and he slowly regained consciousness. Chu Li looked at him coldly in Zhi Ying's appearance. "Sect leader, how do you feel?" Fu Qingya frowned at him. Not only did the enlightened master's energy hurt his body, but it also hurt his mind. Fu Qingya was still dispirited and could not be as clear-headed and quick-witted as he usually was. Chapter 11:26. Fu Qingya looked askance at him. "How did you become Chu Li?" "I had a fortuitous encounter that allowed me to conceal the heavenly demonic power's aura," Chu Li replied. "I can disguise myself as anyone." "What's so special about the heavenly demonic statue? Do you really want to know?" Fu Qingya smiled. Chu Li replied, "It's impossible for you to live. You'll have to die for killing Snow Lunar Pavilion's Shu Qingdai. It seems like you've fallen in love with her." Fu Qingya smiled. "Zheng, you'll never be able to advance any further in this lifetime." Chu Li replied, "You're the sect leader, but you don't want me to become an enlightened master. You're too selfish." "Humph, if you become an enlightened master, I won't be able to live. Heavenly demonic sect deserves to have an enlightened master, but it's nothing compared to my life," Fu Qingya replied calmly. "Besides, heavenly demonic sect is still doing fine even without an enlightened master for so many years." "Well said," Chu Li replied. "The heavenly demonic statue's inheritance skill is the same as the 4 grand elders, right? You want to learn the inheritance skill?" Fu Qingya chuckled with a sarcastic smile. Chu Li replied, "Tell me, what other secrets does heavenly demonic sect have? Tell me too, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead, and you'll have to endure it for years." His gaze was cold, as if he had already regarded Fu Qingya as a dead man. His anger surged. Fu Qingya smiled. "It seems like you're deeply in love with her." Chu Li glared at him coldly. "I should have killed you a long time ago." Fu Qingya chuckled. "What a pity. No matter how powerful your martial arts are, you won't be able to save your own woman. You want to learn the inheritance skill and disguise as me, right? You're smart, sect leader." Chu Li replied, "Heavenly demonic sect leader has many secrets, but I won't tell you." Fu Qingya shook his head. "Besides, you can't stop me from killing myself." Chu Li sneered. "Can you still kill yourself now that you've lost your martial arts?" Heavenly demonic sect's founding master has already taken precautions against such a situation, so the sect leader can kill himself at any time without being interrogated. Fu Qingya smiled. "Unfortunately, you won't be able to learn that." Chu Li said, "It's not impossible. The 4 grand elders will activate their inherited secret skills, and I'll activate the heavenly demonic power and touch the heavenly demonic orb on the back of the heavenly demon statue. Then I'll be able to obtain the inheritance of the heavenly demon statue, right?" Fu Qingya's expression changed as he pondered. Chu Li said faintly, "This isn't much of a secret. I'm more interested in what you've collected over the years, where you've hidden them, and what kind of mechanisms you've hidden. He had already read what he wanted to know from Fu Qingya's mind. Seeing that his words had dispelled Fu Qingya's doubts, Chu Li continued to talk about the heart technique. In one breath, he finally understood this strange technique, which was called the heavenly demonic calamity. If anyone else mastered this strange technique, it would indeed be a disaster for heavenly demonic sect. Chu Li sighed. All right, sect leader, you can die now. Fu Qingya sneered. I'll be waiting for you up there. Without any hesitation, Fu Qingya stopped breathing as soon as he finished speaking. He died right away. Chu Li was still worried, so he slit Fu Qingya's neck with a flying blade and separated his head from his body. Then he drifted away. Fu Qingya would turn into a skeleton with no one knowing his identity, just like the other skeletons here. However, since he was at such a high peak, no one would come to disturb him, so it was a good place to bury his bones. Chu Li returned to heavenly demonic sect in a flash. The 4 grand elders were having a discussion in the basilica. They had already sent someone to inquire about Chu Li, so they sighed helplessly when they saw Chu Li. How's the sect leader? Elder Du scoffed. Chu Li's figure transformed into Fu Qingya's in the blink of an eye. He stood with his hands behind his back and smiled. How is it, you? The 4 grand elders were shocked. They did not expect Chu Li to change his appearance so easily and accurately. He looked exactly like the sect leader, so they could not recognize him at all. The sect leader, Elder Bai asked. Chu Li replied, I've sent the sect leader to the heavenly demonic realm. The sect leader has passed the position to me. You? The 4 grand elders frowned at him. Chu Li smiled. The sect leader has passed on the heavenly demonic disaster to me. That's impossible. The 4 grand elders shook their heads. Fu Qingya hated Zhao to the core. Since Zhao had used such an insidious method to deal with him, Zhao would not forgive him easily. How could he agree to pass the position of the sect leader to Zhao? Furthermore, the heavenly demonic disaster was his life-saving measure. Zhao could not kill him without the heavenly demonic disaster. Passing the heavenly demonic disaster to Zhao would be equivalent to courting death. They found it hard to believe and were slightly worried. Zhao, will there be any problems with the heavenly demonic disaster that the sect leader passed on to you? There won't be. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. The sect leader is a smart man. He knows that his time has passed and that it's time for him to pass the position to me. He's very smart to pass on the heavenly demonic disaster to me and pass the position to me. He raised his left hand as he spoke. There was a dark gray ring on the little finger of his left hand. It was so inconspicuous that it could almost be ignored. However, the 4 grand elders were very sensitive to this item. It was the sect leader's ring. Chapter 11:27. P.S. Update complete. The 4 of them hesitated. They did not know if they should admit it or not. After all, the position of sect leader was not legitimate and had not been officially handed over by the previous sect leader. It was obvious that he had been coerced into taking the position. Chu Li scoffed. Honorable masters, is it better for me or Fu Qingya to be the sect leader? Sect leader Fu is very qualified. Elder Du scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. He's just ruling by doing nothing. Since he became the sect leader, has he done anything practical? Isn't he just sticking to the old ways and doing nothing? That's what's rare. Elder Du nodded. If he breaks the rules by doing this or that, it'll be a disaster for heavenly demonic sect. Honorable Master Du, you want me to be more obedient, right? Chu Li scoffed. Elder Bai laughed. Zhao, you're too adventurous and bold. If we really hand the position of sect leader to you, we won't be at ease if we don't know what you'll do to heavenly demonic sect. Chu Li said, "Don't worry, I'll only make heavenly demonic sect better. Once I become an enlightened master, heavenly demonic sect will be able to travel the world openly. Even if you really become an enlightened master, we'll still have to do this. We can't do it openly," Elder Li said. "This is in line with the mentality of heavenly demonic power." "All right, it's up to you," Chu Li said helplessly. "Anyway, I'm definitely going to be the sect leader." "Oh, right, I'm going to issue the first order as sect leader." The four of them looked at each other and nodded helplessly, acknowledging Chu Li's position as sect leader. Chu Li secretly sighed in relief, but he said, "Send 10 disciples to Fairy's capital in the Ji dynasty and the various imperial residences." "Imperial residences?" Elder Du shook his head. "We can't go to the Ji dynasty. It's too dangerous." Elder Bai nodded. "The Tempest Temple and Titanium Temple are there. It'll be fine if we go to a remote place, but it'll be too dangerous in Fairy's capital." "How can there be such a coincidence?" Chu Li pouted. "Can the eminent monks Sarira conceal the heavenly demonic energy? It's possible, but the eminent monks Sarira will also suppress the heavenly demonic power," Elder Du said with a frown. "This method won't work. The heavenly demonic power will be crippled over time." Chu Li asked, "Are the disciples of heavenly demonic sect so useless?" The four great elders frowned when they heard this. Elder Li said in a deep voice, "In the Fu dynasty, the disciples of heavenly demonic sect are like fish in water. I can only struggle in the Fu dynasty." Chu Li shook his head. "It's really boring." The four elders sighed helplessly. It was rare enough that heavenly demonic sect was like a fish in water in the Fu dynasty. If they really wanted to roam the world unhindered, they would be able to travel to any nation at will without fear. Then, they would not have been holed up here. They would have been unbridled a long time ago. If they could not reach this nation, they would have no qualms about going to another nation. It's settled then. Chu Li waved his hand and said, "I'll think of something. You guys pick 10 people. They must be quick-witted and able to endure the loneliness. Wait for my notice before heading over." He had to think of a way for the heavenly demonic sect disciples to conceal the aura of the heavenly demonic power. The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture was a preliminary idea of his, but he still needed to think about it carefully. His understanding of the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture was not deep enough. "Sect leader, why are you sending people to the Ji dynasty?" Elder Du asked, "Sect leader, are you really going to continue living in the Ji dynasty as Chu Li?" "Of course." Chu Li nodded. "Pretending to be Chu Li is much better than staying here. Don't disturb me. What about the heavenly demonic sect? It's equivalent to me going into isolated cultivation." Chu Li waved his hand and said impatiently, "I'll come back if I have something to do. Oh, right. Help me find a way to obtain the dragon taming technique." "Yes." The four elders nodded helplessly. Chu Li waved his hand and disappeared abruptly. The four great elders looked at each other and felt that it was unreal. In such a short time, heavenly demonic sect had changed their sect leader. It was a feast for the eyes. Sect leader hasn't inherited the heavenly demon statue yet, Elder Du said. Elder Bai chuckled. "I guess he doesn't dare to." The four of them laughed. The heavenly demon statue had taught him a lesson twice, so it must have been traumatized. It was early morning when Chu Li returned to Tianshu courtyard. Xiao Qi was practicing her swordsmanship. Her white dress fluttered like a fairy, and her sword flashed like lightning. Xiao Shi was also slowly practicing a fist technique. Her movements were gentle and graceful as if she was dancing. When they saw Chu Li, the two ladies stopped what they were doing and sat at the stone table with him. Lu Su came over to serve him tea and left. How did it go over there? Xiao Qi asked. Chu Li nodded. I've killed her. I've avenged her. Where's the guy who came to challenge me? He did not want to talk about Shu Qingdai anymore. He felt pained and guilty, but there was nothing he could do. He was like an ant compared to his predecessors. Only by becoming an enlightened master could he be free. The desire in his heart grew stronger as he wondered if heavenly demonic sect could obtain the dragon taming technique. He was chased away by younger sister. Xiao Shi scoffed. His name is Lu Guangdi. He sought refuge with King Jing and is now King Jing's protector. Chu Li's expression darkened. Xiao Shi said, I think he just sought refuge with King Jing. He wanted to make a name for himself by stepping on you. Although he didn't manage to do so, he still made a name for himself. Everyone in Fairy's capital knows that his cultivation level is high. Chu Li nodded slowly. Forget it. Xiao Qi said, we can't fall out with King Jing because of this. Chu Li said, since King Jing managed to recruit Lu Guangdi, he's not an ordinary person. Has King Jing recruited many martial arts masters? No. Xiao Shi shook her head. He's becoming more and more cautious. He didn't recruit martial arts masters wantonly. Lu Guangdi is the only one. It seems like he's the talent that King Jing desperately needs. He's very intelligent, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. I'd like to see for myself. King Jing's ascension to the throne is getting louder. It's almost inevitable. We shouldn't offend him if we can. He's the future emperor, Xiao Shi said. Chu Li smiled. Too many things can happen in 10 years. Xiao Shi said, it seems like the emperor has decided on King Jing. King Ping was originally a threat, but now he's voluntarily given up his military power, which means he's withdrawing from the competition. Chu Li smiled, but did not say anything. Of course, he knew that King Ping would fight for the throne, but it was not appropriate for him to tell others. Xiao Qi asked, has King Ping really given up? She frowned slightly as she was puzzled. Xiao Shi nodded. He's very tactful. This way, the emperor won't be so troubled. Xiao Qi sighed softly. Maybe he's disheartened. She sympathized with King Ping. He fought hard at the border, but failed to protect his wife. It must be very painful. Suddenly, footsteps were heard outside. Chief Zhu stood outside Tianshu courtyard. Chief, there's an urgent letter for you. Bring it in. Chu Li said. Chief Zhu walked in briskly and presented a letter with both hands. Chu Li took out the letter. There was only a mark on the letter and no words. Chu Li frowned and nodded. Chief Zhu left the room. What's going on? Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li said, I'll be back soon. He suddenly disappeared, and when he appeared outside the imperial residence, he had turned into a middle-aged man. He asks for his opinion on everything. If he continues, he, Zhuo Liang, and Feather. If this continues, he will definitely find me, Zhuo Feiyang said. Chu Li chuckled. You're too timid. What right does he have to expose you? Did you do anything to hinder the imperial residence of King Jing? With Li He King, he. But Zhuo Feiyang frowned. Chu Li said, your identity and background are very clear. You're an abandoned general of the E-Public House. You have a grudge against the E-Public House. Even if you're loyal to the E-Public House, it's not a big deal. The imperial residence of King Jing and the E-Public House are not enemies. I'm afraid that he won't listen to what I have to say and will just kill me. Zhuo Feiyang shook his head. He's a foreign advisor. He can command the protectors of the imperial residence. He was not even Lu Guangdi's match in a one-on-one fight, let alone with the imperial residence's protectors. Will King Jing attack you? Chu Li asked calmly. Zhuo Feiyang shook his head. Who calls the shots in the public house? Chu Li asked. Zhuo Feiyang replied. King Jing will be in charge of the important matters, while Lu Yurong will be in charge of the small matters. Lu Yurong hasn't left yet. Chu Li frowned. Zhuo Feiyang said. Lu Yurong has been staying at King Jing's imperial residence for quite some time now. She is King Jing's most trusted confidant. Almost everything goes through her hands. There are even many things that King Jing does not know about. She was the one who handled them all. Chu Li furrowed his brows and sighed. He did not expect Lu Yurong's status to rise so quickly. When he was in Fairy's capital, Lu Yurong was only a guest at King Jing's imperial residence. She did not fully join King Jing's side. Now, it seemed like Lu Yurong was going all out to support King Jing and help him seize the throne. He knew Lu Yurong's capabilities better than anyone else. Her martial arts might not be as good as his, but her wisdom was definitely not inferior to his. She might even be better than him. After all, he was only able to suppress her because of the omniscient mirror. If not for the omniscient mirror's ability to see through people's minds, he would not be a match for Lu Yurong. Don't worry. If Lu Yurong is in charge, she won't do anything to you, Chu Li said. Although Lu Yurong hated the public house, she had some friendly relations with him. If she really realized that Zhuo Feiyang was his chess piece, she would not kill him. Instead, she would propose a trade. This was in line with her character. Then what's the relationship between Lu Guangdi and Lu Yurong? Chu Li asked. Lu Guangdi seems to like Lu Yurong, Zhuo Feiyang said. Chu Li glanced at him and said, does Lu Guangdi have to listen to Lu Yurong, or does he have to stay out of it? He has to listen to Lu Yurong as well, Zhuo Feiyang said. However, Lu Guangdi seems to be unconvinced. Chu Li curled his lips and said in disdain, you're just a disciple of Tide Listening Pavilion. That's all you amount to. If you continue to meddle in other people's business, I'll destroy you or Tide Listening Pavilion. You sure talk big, Lu Guangdi said coldly. Chu Li gave him a sidelong glance. You don't believe me? Do you want me to destroy the Tide Listening Pavilion for you to see? You... Lu Guangdi gritted his teeth, but did not say anything. He was shocked by Chu Li's martial arts, and secretly thought that even if Tide Listening Pavilion could stop him, they might not be able to do so if there were a few more of them. Chu Li waved his hand. Get lost. Mind your own business. Do you think Zhuo Feiyang can hide it from others? Lu Guangdi scoffed. Do you think he can hide it from Miss Lu? Chu Li smiled faintly. Who wants to hide it? Do you think Lu Yurong doesn't know? You're just a smartass who thinks everyone else is stupid and thinks you're the smartest. Get lost. Lu Guangdi shouted. Miss Lu knows? That's impossible. Chu Li said, if you go up to her and tell her that she can't turn a blind, don't blame me for being impolite. Do you think I don't know where Tide Listening Pavilion is? Lu Guangdi let out a disdainful smile. Do you really know where Tide Listening Pavilion is? Tide Listening Pavilion's location was a big secret. Outsiders did not know about it. Chu Li calmly said, Tribute Town. Lu Guangdi's expression changed. Chu Li scoffed. Now you're honest. Huh? Get lost. Lu Guangdi's expression darkened as he stared at him. Without saying a word, Chu Li slowly walked to his side and walked straight ahead. He was about to bump into Lu Guangdi. Lu Guangdi tilted his body to make way, allowing Chu Li to slowly walk away. When Chu Li was more than 20 meters away, Lu Guangdi hurriedly turned around and shouted, How did you know? Chu Li scoffed and waved his hand without turning his head. He took a step forward and disappeared into the alleyway. Lu Guangdi felt a chill down his spine. Tide Listening Pavilion's location was a top secret. Outsiders could not possibly know about it. Only Tide Listening Pavilion disciples knew about it. Every generation, only one Tide Listening Pavilion disciple would leave the martial arts world. Other than Lu Guangdi, no other Tide Listening Pavilion disciple had left. Then, how did other people know about Tide Listening Pavilion's location? Which family did Zhuo Feiyang belong to? How could he be so resourceful? If he really raided Tide Listening Pavilion's home, then Lu Guangdi would really be a sinner. Tide Listening Pavilion was hidden from the world because they were afraid of this. It seemed like he had underestimated the heroes of the world. Just relying on a special technique would not allow him to dominate the world. His telepathy was ineffective against this guy, and it was ineffective against Zhuo Feiyang as well. Chapter 11:30. Chu Li's face darkened. He scoffed and said, "Let's go. We'll talk inside." Yes, Liang felt suffocated, and the immense pressure was like a mountain pressing down on him. His legs trembled, and he involuntarily wanted to kneel down, but he did his best to resist. He followed Chu Li into the imperial residence of King and quickly sat down in the main hall. What are the three Ning brothers doing? Chu Li sat on the armchair and pointed to the opposite side. He frowned and said, "There aren't any cases in the secret guardians hall right now, right?" "No cases." Liang sat opposite him and shook his head. "I don't know what the three Ning brothers are doing. I haven't seen them for a few days. After asking around, no one has seen them. It's as if they've disappeared. They left without saying anything." "No." Liang shook his head and said, "If they don't show up tomorrow, the commander will issue an arrest warrant and announce that they have betrayed the secret guardians hall." "Nonsense." Chu Li scoffed. Liang said helplessly, "They haven't been seen for 7 days, and they didn't even inform us in advance. It's really suspicious that they left without a sound, so the commander asked me to inform the head chief. I'm not a member of the secret guardians hall now." "Do as you please, Commander," Chu Li said coldly. Liang groaned to himself. The more he put it in such a manner, the more troublesome it would be. If they really sent out a wanted notice, then they would start a huge feud. They knew the head chief's capabilities. The secret guardians hall was not afraid that the head chief would go against them, but they were afraid that he would stand by and do nothing when they needed his help. For example, the case of Minister Li's family being massacred had caused a sensation in Fairy's capital. The emperor had ordered for the case to be solved. Without the head chief's help, it would be difficult for the secret guardians hall to solve the case on their own. It was inevitable that the emperor would think that they were incompetent. Accompanying the emperor was like accompanying a tiger. The emperor's heart was unpredictable. After 2 or 3 times, the secret guardians hall would welcome a huge change, and most people would be out of luck. Liang said embarrassedly, what the commander meant was for the head steward to help out, and see if you can find them and inform them. Chu Li frowned and looked at him. "Commander, are you saying that I'm the one who ordered this?" "I don't have such intentions." Liang quickly waved his hand. Chu Li scoffed. "I'll give it a try. Whether or not I can find it depends on the outcome. Don't get your hopes up." "It won't be a problem if the head chief takes action." Liang hurriedly smiled. Chu Li said, "Wait a moment, let me take a look." "Yes." Liang cupped his fists. Chu Li returned to his courtyard and took out a small box from the cupboard. Inside the box were a few strands of hair. He used the all-seeing divine technique to sense the location of the Ning brothers, and his face slowly darkened. He actually couldn't sense the 3 of them. It was as if the 3 of them had completely disappeared from the world. Unwilling to give up, he tried again, but there was still no sign of the 3 people. There were 2 possibilities for this to happen. One was that they were wearing items that could suppress divine powers, or they were within the range of treasures like the Titanium Temple and the Tempest Temple. The second possibility was that they were already dead. He went to the lobby. Liang was drinking tea and waiting patiently. Head chief. Seeing him enter, Liang hurriedly stood up and cupped his fists. Chu Li's face darkened as he shook his head. This isn't good. I can't sense them. Either they've gone to a special place, or they're dead. Your commander shouldn't issue a wanted notice. Just send someone to look for them. Liang smiled bitterly. He knew that his commander was not a magnanimous person. The Ning brothers did not listen to the commander's orders at all. The commander hated them to the core and would not let go of such an opportunity. He must punish them as a warning to the others. Chu Li said, "Tell Commander Gu that it's up to him whether to listen or not." "Yes." Liang sighed in relief. Chu Li waved his hand. "Go do what you need to do. Goodbye." Liang hurriedly cupped his fists and left. Watch. As Liang's figure disappeared, Chu Li paced back and forth in the lobby with his hands behind his back. Finally, he called out to Chief Zhu and asked him to send someone to look for Yang Zongwen. Yang Zongwen soon arrived. He was dressed in a blue tunic and looked energetic. "Centurion." Yang Zongwen bowed, respectfully. "Sit down and talk." Chu Li sat on the armchair and waved his hand. "What's going on with the Ning brothers?" "The Ning brothers?" Yang Zongwen was about to sit on the armchair opposite him when he heard Chu Li's question. The three of them were ordered by the commander to track down a Tempest Temple disciple. A Tempest Temple disciple. Chu Li frowned. A Tempest Temple disciple stirred up trouble again. The commander said that Minister Li's case might be related to the Tempest Temple, so he sent the Ning brothers to take a look, Yang Zongwen said. Chu Li's face darkened, and he sneered. "Commander Gu, what a good move. The Tempest Temple would not be polite to the secret guardians of the Secret Guardians Hall. They would cripple their martial arts and throw them in a place where no one could find them. Just like Qin Jin and the other 5, they would slowly die of old age and live an ordinary life. If he knew that the Ning brothers would end up like this, he would definitely fight the Tempest Temple out of anger. From Gu Yu's point of view, he was no match for the Tempest Temple. As soon as he sat on the Crown Prince's position, he was unshakable. It was difficult for others to cause any trouble. If King Jing was appointed as the Crown Prince, then King Ping would not stand a chance anymore. Even if he regained control of the military, he would not stand a chance unless he rebelled. However, once he rebelled, the Ji dynasty would be done for. Fa Yuan said, "King Jing's succession has been decided. The outcome has been determined." Chu Li said slowly. Fa Yuan said, "Once you become the Crown Prince, your martial arts will improve by leaps and bounds. You'll reach the peak of the Grand Master's boundary, and only the enlightened masters will be able to threaten you." Chu Li nodded slowly. He really did not know about this. Fa Yuan said, "But it doesn't mean that there won't be any changes. At this time, I'm afraid that someone will try to assassinate King Jing. Once he succeeds the Crown Prince's position, it'll be impossible to assassinate him again. This will be the last wave of madness." Chu Li pondered and asked, "When will the Crown Prince be appointed?" "The specific time hasn't been decided yet." Fa Yuan shook his head. "The Emperor has this idea." Chu Li nodded slowly and stood up. "I don't meddle in politics if I'm not in a position. I'm not a courtier. It doesn't matter who becomes the emperor." Fa Yuan smiled and shook his head. "King Jing and you have a good relationship. He won't be a hindrance if he becomes the Crown Prince. There's really no need to be anxious. Could it be that the Tempest Temple is anxious?" Chu Li asked. "That's not the case." Fa Yuan said, "King Jing has no enmity with the Tempest Temple. Seeing how anxious you all are, it doesn't seem like it." Chu Li smiled. Could it be that the Tempest temple wants to assassinate him? Of course not. Fa Yuan quickly waved his hand. Chu Li walked out. I just said it without thinking. It's fine if it's not. In the backyard of the imperial residence of King Jing, Lu Yurong was wearing a white tunic as she sat quietly in a gazebo above the lake. She looked at the fish swimming in the lake as her thoughts drifted. The 7 women who had been following her closely were scattered around. Some were in the flower beds, some were in the gazebo, and some were in the waterside pavilion. They were all busy with their own things. Footsteps could be heard as Lu Guangdi, dressed in a blue tunic, slowly walked over. His handsome face had a bright smile as he stepped onto the corridor and slowly walked to the gazebo. He gave a fist salute. Greetings, Miss Lu. Lu Yurong waved her hand and did not even look at him. Lu Guangdi looked at her jade-like face. It was extremely charming and beautiful under the reflection of the ripples on the lake. Her almond-shaped eyes were even more captivating. Her red lips were even more tender and alluring. Chapter 1132. P.S. Under normal circumstances, it's at 12 a.m. and 6 p.m. at 3 p.m. Lu Guangdi slapped his forehead and pretended to be annoyed. Look at me. I forgot that Chu Li already has a wife. Lu Yurong glanced at him and said, What are you trying to say? Lu Guangdi shook his head and said, I misunderstood. Miss Lu, you're talented and beautiful. How could you fall for a married man? You're the lady of the public house. How could you be someone's concubine? Furthermore, the Run public house and the E public house are enemies. It seems like I was overthinking it. Lu Yurong said faintly, Not bad, little Lu. You're so weird, and you're fighting with your words. You're mocking me, aren't you? I wouldn't dare. Lu Guangdi hurriedly waved his hand and pretended to be afraid. Lu Yurong said, Do you think that I wouldn't dare to do anything to you because His Royal Highness thinks highly of you, and you're fearless? I wouldn't dare. Lu Guangdi laughed. Lu Yurong coldly said, Then shut your mouth. If you're not happy, then go and challenge Chu Li. Really? Lu Guangdi was stunned. Why did Miss Lu agree? Lu Yurong said, I want to see how you die. Lu Guangdi laughed. Miss Lu, you think too highly of Chu Li. No matter how powerful he is, he can't stop me if I want to leave. King An's imperial residence isn't a tiger's den. Even if it is, I'll still go. All right, let me see what you're made of. Lu Yurong scoffed. Lu Guangdi said, Then, Miss Lu, just watch the show. Then go and challenge him tomorrow. Lu Yurong said, Don't let Chu Li leave again if you're too late. He's a busy man now. All right. Lu Guangdi scoffed. Lu Yurong's praise of Chu Li made him very angry. He was just a small chief. Not only was Lu Yurong the lady of the public house, she was also talented and beautiful, far surpassing any woman in the world. She was a woman who looked down on all men in the world, yet she was praising a small chief. If he did not defeat Chu Li, how could he vent his anger? After he returned to his courtyard, he immediately started cultivating and went to bed early to recharge. The next morning, he woke up early, full of energy and excitement. His whole body was full of fighting spirit, and he felt that every part of his body was excited. Today, he must trample on Chu Li, ruthlessly trample on him, kick him to the ground, and become famous overnight. At that time, let's see if Lu Yurong can still be so arrogant and look down on me. He had changed into a green robe, which made his face look even more like jade. He was upright and confident as he slowly walked out of King Jing's imperial residence. Step by step, he arrived outside of King An's imperial residence. Finally, he stood at the bottom of the steps of King An's imperial residence with his hands behind his back. He ignored the 2 protectors beside the stone lion and raised his voice. Where is Chu Li? Lu Guangdi from King Jing's imperial residence is here to ask for advice. You have great ambition but little talent. You're nothing more than this. You can't even withstand a single blow. Lu Guangdi wanted to say something, but could not. His mouth was filled with the taste of blood. His chest was filled with discomfort, and his vision was turning black. His killing intent and hatred were about to explode. He only had endless killing intent towards Chu Li. He was even more furious at himself. He felt that he had failed to live up to his expectations. He could not even withstand a single attack from Chu Li. Chu Li turned to look at the roof, not far away. Yurong, since you're here, why are you still hiding? A white shadow flashed. Lu Yurong floated down from the roof and landed in front of Chu Li. She said angrily, "You've gone too far." She was dressed in a white tunic that was flawless. Her face was covered with a white veil, revealing only a pair of beautiful eyes. Chu Li smiled. "Didn't I do what you asked me to and not kill him? This is more than enough. He came knocking on my door, yet I let him go. If everyone was like him, would I still have a peaceful life? I was planning to use him to establish my authority." "You always have a reason." Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. "Are you satisfied now? I should be the one asking that question." Chu Li laughed. "You'll remember this favor. Take him away." Lu Yurong scoffed. Release his acupuncture point. She had guessed Chu Li's tactics. He would continue to humiliate Lu Guangdi. He had to make sure that Lu Guangdi would not be able to recover from this setback. Otherwise, he would become a formidable opponent in the future. For a proud young man like Lu Guangdi, it would be very difficult for him to stand up again once he was defeated too badly. Based on her calculations, even if she brought Lu Guangdi back to King Jing's imperial residence, she might not be able to release Chu Li's acupuncture point. He could only let his acupuncture point release on its own. If it were her, she would have done the same thing. Chu Li was essentially the same type of person as her, so he would probably do the same thing. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. "You're really gauging the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure." He stepped forward and lightly patted Lu Guangdi's chest. Lu Guangdi felt his body relax as he regained his freedom. He took a deep breath. His eyes seemed to be burning as he glared at Chu Li. "Chu Li, I will never forget what you've done for me today." Chu Li smiled. "All right, your martial arts might be the strongest in your Tide Listening Pavilion, but it's nothing in the fairies' capital. Go back and train for a few years before coming out again." Chapter 1133. P.S. Update complete. I'm really sorry. My face hurts from the slap. Lu Yurong clapped her hands, and a young lady floated over. She was beautiful and delicate and gave a fist salute. "Miss, bring him back," Lu Yurong said. "No need. I can walk by myself." Lu Guangdi hurriedly said. If he was really brought back, he would lose all his face. Lu Yurong looked at Chu Li. "Didn't do anything bad, did you?" Chu Li smiled and shook his head. "It's best if you don't cultivate for 24 hours, or else—" "Humph." Lu Guangdi sneered as he turned around and left. Lu Yurong looked at Chu Li. Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong said, "All right then. Escort him back, just in case something happens along the way." "Yes," the elegant young lady replied crisply before leaving with Lu Guangdi. Chu Li watched him leave and shook his head. "Let's talk inside." Lu Yurong followed him to his courtyard. Lu Yurong looked around his courtyard. "Why don't I see Shao Qi?" "It's at the Tianshu Institute." Chu Li gestured for her to sit down and talk. Then he personally brewed a cup of tea and handed it to her. "Just what kind of background does this Lu Guangdi have? Why are you so tolerant of him?" He could tell that Lu Yurong was extremely impatient with Lu Guangdi. She could not wait to kill him, but she did not. Lu Yurong said angrily, "This is a master that His Royal Highness recruited. How can I touch him?" "That's not all, right?" Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong snorted. Chu Li said, "It seems like King Jing has recruited Tide Listening Pavilion. Since King Jing has taken a liking to them, Tide Listening Pavilion must be very powerful. You have a good relationship with King Ping, right?" Lu Yurong smiled. She took off her white veil, revealing her charming face. Her smile was like a flower, dazzling and dazzling. Chu Li could not help but laugh. "Don't worry, I won't get involved in the fight for the throne. Whether King Jing or King Ping becomes the emperor, it has nothing to do with King An's imperial residence. I won't mistreat King An's imperial residence." "That's true," Lu Yurong said lightly. "If you don't get involved, I won't mistreat you." Chu Li smiled. "Is this King Jing's condition?" "You could say that," Lu Yurong said. Chu Li said, "I heard that they're going to appoint a crown prince." Lu Yurong squinted her eyes and looked at him thoughtfully. This was the most confidential of secrets. Even in the imperial house, there were no more than 3 people who knew about it. How could Chu Li know about it? Chu Li could not help but laugh. "I got the news by accident, not by spying. No wonder you've been staying in the fairy's capital. You've reached the most crucial moment, haven't you?" "That's right," Lu Yurong said slowly. "Did you hear anything else?" Chu Li said, "King Ping has already relinquished his military power, so it's only natural for him to give up his position. The other kings are no longer a threat to him, so it's inevitable that King Jing will become the crown prince. No one can stop him. Before the dust settles, how would you know if there are any changes?" Lu Yurong said, "You really don't have any other thoughts?" Chu Li quickly waved his hand. "I don't want to get involved in this mess." Lu Yurong looked at him with a faint smile. Both of them understood each other. She knew that Chu Li was not a quiet person. Although King An's imperial residence was no longer king, and there was still a successor. If he said that he had no other thoughts, it might not be true. The harder it was, the more he had to do it. For example, pushing Su into the crown prince's position. Lu Yurong said, "The young prince of King An's imperial residence hasn't returned yet." Chu Li said, "He's in isolated cultivation. He won't be back for a while. It'll probably take a few years." Lu Yurong scoffed. "I'm afraid he'll be back soon." Chu Li lifted his teacup and took a sip. He was relaxed. The young prince is still young, so it's better for him to cultivate. It's better not to get involved in the adult's affairs. Moreover, as a Buddhist, there's no need for him to fight for the throne. "That's good." Lu Yurong lifted her teacup and took a sip. She said, "I heard that Guyu is causing trouble for you." Chu Li frowned. "You have eyes and ears in the secret guardian's hall too?" Lu Yurong chuckled. "Aren't you the same? We're the same. I don't believe that you don't have eyes and ears in the imperial residence of King Jing." Chu Li was stunned. He then laughed. "I'd like to have eyes and ears in the imperial residence of King Jing. Unfortunately, the imperial residence of King Jing is tightly guarded. I can't do anything about it." "Oh." Lu Yurong put down her teacup. Her smile was like a blooming flower. It was as if 100 flowers had bloomed in front of her. Her face was radiant. "That Zhuo Feiyang isn't one of your men?" Chu Li sighed. He smiled. "You can say that he's one of my men. After all, he's from the Yi public house." Lu Yurong's watery eyes were locked on his face. She wanted to see even the slightest change in him. Unfortunately, Chu Li's expression did not seem to be fake. She could not tell if he was telling the truth. She smiled. "Zhuo Feiyang's aptitude is not bad. He can be groomed. His aptitude is not bad. Unfortunately, his temperament is lacking. Otherwise, he wouldn't be where he is now." Chu Li said lightly. His current achievements are already impressive. Does he want to be like you and me? Lu Yurong said. Chu Li sighed. If his temperament is good enough, he might be able to achieve what we have. Lu Yurong looked at him with a faint smile. Looks like he's really your spy. Chu Li smiled. He did not deny it. You can say that. Lu Yurong frowned at him. Both of them seemed to be speaking normally. However, they were testing each other. If it was someone else, Lu Yurong would be able to see through them. However, she could not do so with Chu Li. The two of them were evenly matched. Truth and falsehood. Chu Li had never lied. However, the truth could often lead people into a trap. It created an illusion and could not be completely trusted. Chu Li sighed. Lu Yurong was indeed Lu Yurong. Shuo Feiyang's efforts were wasted. From now on, he would not be able to get any useful information. He could only be a link between the two of them. If it was not convenient for Lu Yurong to come over, she could pass the message to Chu Li through Shuo Feiyang. However, Shuo Feiyang still could not leave the imperial residence of King Jing. Every small change in the imperial residence was important. Even if Shuo Feiyang could not get any confidential information, such general information was worth staying there. What do you plan to do with Gu Yu? Lu Yurong smiled. Do you need my help? Chu Li smiled at her. Lu Yurong said, how about we take him down? He's favored by the emperor. I can't take him down. Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong said, then we'll move him away. I'll think of a way to get rid of Lu Guangdi. Chu Li said knowingly. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and chuckled. If that's the case, I'm the one at a disadvantage. Who else? Chu Li asked. Tell me, King Ping. Lu Yurong smiled. Chu Li waved his hand. That's impossible. I won't use King Ping. I'm not asking you to deal with King Ping. I'm just trying to find out what he's thinking. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him. See what he's thinking. Chu Li shook his head. I'm friends with King Ping. Just like you and I won't trade my friends. All right then. I'll settle for the next best thing. Help me meet King Ping. Lu Yurong said. This was why she trusted Chu Li. He was cunning but principled. She was assured that he would not betray her. I'm going to the verdant cloud brothel with King Ping. You can come with me, Chu Li said. Chapter 1134. Chu Li suddenly said, Fa Yuan is here. He disappeared in a flash and appeared in front of the main entrance of the imperial residence of King, and Fa Yuan's gray robe fluttered in the wind as he arrived at the entrance. When he saw Chu Li, he pressed his palms together and bowed. Brother Chu. Chu Li studied his expression. It's good news, isn't it? Fa Yuan smiled and nodded. Fortunately, I made it in time. My martial arts were not crippled. Our luck is pretty good, Chu Li said. If the three of them were crippled of their martial arts, of course, he would come out to seek justice. He might even cripple the 3 monks of the Tempest Temple. Fa Yuan asked, should we release them? There's no hurry, Chu Li said. Fa Yuan smiled. What do you have in mind, Brother Chu? Chu Li brought him into the imperial residence of King, and as he spoke, upon entering his courtyard, Fa Yuan saw Lu Yurong and pressed his palms together. Miss Lu. Lu Yurong pressed her palms together and bowed. Monk Fa Yuan, you didn't leave Fairy's capital? I'm currently cultivating in the Mercy Temple. Fa Yuan smiled. Are you going to stay in the Fairy's capital forever? Lu Yurong asked. Fa Yuan smiled and said, it's inevitable for me to be a little greedy for the Fairy's capital. Lu Yurong looked at him with a frown. Don't tell me that the Tempest Temple is up to something again. Miss Lu is too serious. Fa Yuan shook his head and smiled. Our temple will not participate in the succession of the throne. Lu Yurong was very sharp. She immediately understood why Chu Li knew about the crown prince. She scoffed and said, "The Tempest Temple really has a long reach. The imperial house is so well informed. I'm impressed." Fei Yuan pressed his palms together. Chu Li said, "Fei Yuan, help me send the Ning brothers to the public house." Lu Yurong knew about the 3 Ning brothers like the back of her hand. She said in surprise, "You're trying to steal from the secret guardian's hall. If the emperor finds out, he won't forgive you. Once a secret guardian, always a secret guardian. You'd better be careful." Chu Li scoffed. "What do you mean by once a secret guardian, always a secret guardian? Haven't I been thrown out?" Lu Yurong pursed her lips and chuckled. "How did you offend the emperor?" Chu Li said, "A saint's heart is hard to predict. Fei Yuan, can you do it?" "Very well." Fei Yuan nodded and smiled. 3 days later, the person will be sent to the High Duke's public house. No one else will know about this. Chu Li thanked him. Lu Yurong said, "If someone finds out, especially Gu Yu, they'll report you. The emperor will definitely hold you accountable. Don't be thrown to guard the imperial mausoleum by the emperor again. That'll be interesting." She smiled sweetly, looking forward to it. If that was the case, he wouldn't have to worry about Chu Li again. Chu Li said, "Don't worry if they stay in the public house. No one will find out as long as you don't tell anyone. Yurong, don't mess around." "Don't worry." Lu Yurong smiled. She turned to Fei Yuan. "Monk, your Tempest Temple has always been indifferent to King Jing. Do you have any opinions about him?" Monk Fei Yuan shook his head. "King Jing is a wise ruler." Lu Yurong scoffed. "That's good." Chu Li smiled and said, "Yurong, you've worked hard enough as an advisor. Why bother? In my opinion, you should retire now and return to the Ren public house. You should lay low for a while." Lu Yurong frowned at him. Chu Li said, "You're a woman after all. If word gets out that King Jing's advisor is a woman, everyone will feel bad." Lu Yurong remained silent. Chu Li smiled and said, "There's no one who can threaten King Jing now. It's useless for you to be so nervous. If there's a problem, you'll be able to turn the tide. Only then will you be able to show your ability and importance. Otherwise, King Jing won't appreciate you. He might try everything to get rid of you, thinking that you're an eyesore." Lu Yurong was annoyed. "What do you mean?" "I'm afraid that you'll have a bad ending if you're too powerful." Chu Li smiled and said, "It's always been done. King Jing is the next emperor. Being with the emperor is like being with a tiger. Don't think that everything will be fine just because he's your uncle. You should be more careful." Lu Yurong was very intelligent. With her by King Jing's side, there would be many obstacles to do anything. It was inevitable that she would see through him. It would be best if she left. Even if she did not leave, it would be good to provoke the trust between Lu Yurong and King Jing, who knew when it would explode in the future and affect the overall situation. Lu Yurong was deep in thought. She then realized and scoffed. "You're not making me feel at ease." Chu Li smiled. "I'm just doing this out of kindness." "Humph, there's no need." Lu Yurong scoffed. Fei Yuan said, "Miss Lu, I also think that Brother Chu is right. Forget it. I can't be bothered to talk to you." Lu Yurong waved her hand. She floated up the wall and disappeared. Lu Yurong returned to the imperial residence of King Jing. When she came to the backyard, she saw Consort Jing sitting in the pagoda, reading. She entered the pagoda and greeted Aunt. Consort Jing was dressed in colorful clothes. Although her beautiful face had lost some of its beauty due to the passage of time, she still retained her beauty. In addition, she had a demure and elegant temperament. She was dignified and calm. She gently put down the book and smiled. Where did you go? The imperial residence of King, and Lu Yurong sat opposite her. Consort Jing said, I heard that young Lu went to challenge head chief Chu. Yes. Lu Yurong chuckled. He doesn't know his place. He thinks that Chu Li doesn't live up to his reputation. What was the outcome? Consort Jing asked. Lu Yurong shook her head and smiled. And guess, he didn't win against head chief Chu. He couldn't even take one hit. That's a huge difference. It's like heaven and earth. He couldn't even take half a hit. Lu Yurong shook her head. He finally understands that it's not easy to stay in the fairy's capital. Fame isn't that easy to come by. This will be a huge blow to young Lu. Consort Jing sighed. Yurong, you have to take care of young Lu. Lu Yurong said impatiently. Although he's a talent, uncle-in-law doesn't have to think so highly of him. Yurong, you're not young anymore. Consort Jing said. Lu Yurong was smart. Once she heard Consort Jing's words, she immediately reacted. She frowned. Do you want me to marry him? Your uncle-in-law thinks that he's good enough for you. Consort Jing said. Lu Yurong laughed. He's good enough for me? Uncle-in-law thinks too highly of him. Your uncle-in-law didn't expect that he couldn't even defeat head chief Chu in one hit. He thought that it would be a draw. Consort Jing smiled bitterly and shook her head. It's not that young Lu can't do it. It's that head chief Chu is too powerful. I just came from Chu Li's place. Fa Yuan was there too. The Tempest Temple already knows about the Emperor's Crown Prince appointment. Lu Yurong said lightly, the Tempest Temple is indeed omnipotent. They're everywhere. Consort Jing said, sigh. She let out a faint sigh. Yurong had always had her eyes set on the top of her head. Among the young men in the world, only Chu Li and Fa Yuan caught her eye. How could she pay attention to other men? Chapter 1135. However, among all the young men in the Ji dynasty's martial arts world, other than the two of them, no one could catch Yurong's eye. It was extremely difficult to be worthy of her. She originally thought that Lu Guangdi was good enough. He had a clean background, was capable, and looked good. He was barely worthy of Yurong, but now it seemed like it was not enough. Auntie, please tell Uncle to give up. Lu Yurong said. Consort Jing sighed. Your uncle is doing this for your own good. After all, you're not young anymore. You don't have to worry. Lu Yurong scoffed. I won't ruin his plans. You... Consort Jing shook her head. Don't say that. You'll hurt your uncle's feelings. He doesn't have a daughter, so he treats you like one. Lu Yurong shook her head. What background does this Lu Guangdi have to make uncle care so much? She knew that this uncle of hers had his eyes on the top of his head. He would not care about most young people. This Lu Guangdi really has an extraordinary background. Consort Jing knew that she could not hide it from Lu Yurong, so she said honestly, he's the illegitimate son of an elder of Green Deer Cliff. That elder only has one son. An elder of Green Deer Cliff? Lu Yurong frowned. To have such a young son, this elder must be an old pervert. To become an elder, one had to be at least 100 years old, and Lu Guangdi was only 20. He's a man. Consort Jing smiled. He seems to be a very important elder. Tide Listening Pavilion and Green Deer Cliff are inextricably linked. If we can recruit Tide Listening Pavilion, we'll gain a lot. Lu Yurong frowned. What does Uncle think I am? In 2 days, I'll be returning to the public house. Don't be ridiculous. Consort Jing quickly said. Why would you return to the public house at this time? Lu Yurong shook her head. I'm not needed now. I'll be smart and leave early. I don't want Uncle to be put in a difficult position. Your own. Consort Jing frowned unhappily. What nonsense are you talking about? Lu Yurong said, and please don't speak up for me in front of uncle-in-law. He is destined to live a lonely life. I can't afford to be his daughter. As long as the house of Duke is safe and sound, I will be satisfied. You, Consort Jing looked at her helplessly. If you're not satisfied with Xiao Lu, your uncle won't force you. Lu Yurong shook her head. Although she knew that Chu Li did not have any good intentions, when she thought about what he said, it made sense. It was dangerous to be too close to the emperor. Accompanying the emperor was like accompanying a tiger. No matter how close he was to his uncle-in-law, he would still be the future emperor. Just as they were speaking, a beautiful young lady walked over with an invitation in her hands. Princess, young Miss Verdant Cloud Brothel has sent you an invitation. Verdant Cloud Brothel? Consort Jing frowned. Consort Jing smiled. I heard that you lost to Head Chief Chu. You're not arrogant in your victory, nor are you discouraged in your defeat. That's good. It doesn't matter if you lose, as long as you win again next time. Yes, Lu Guangdi smiled. I'll be able to defeat Chu Li in a month. Oh, Consort Jing asked curiously. You'll be able to defeat him in a month? Lu Guangdi said, I'm currently cultivating a divine technique. Once I master it, my martial arts skills will multiply. I'll definitely be able to defeat Chu Li. That's good. Consort Jing smiled. Actually, it's not a big deal if you can't defeat Chu Li. After all, he's one of the top young martial artists in the world. Being able to fight him to a draw is already pretty good. I'll defeat him this time. Lu Guangdi said in a low voice. Consort Jing shook her head and smiled. She glanced at Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong's lips curled into a cold smile. Lu Guangdi said, I heard that Miss Lu received an invitation from the Verdant Cloud Brothel. Lu Yurong frowned and glared at him. Lu Guangdi said, the Verdant Cloud Brothel is not a place for women. I wonder who dares to be so rude. You're such a busybody, Lu Yurong said coldly. Consort Jing smiled. It was Head Chief Chu who invited Yurong over, so it was him. Lu Guangdi laughed coldly. He's trying to ruin Miss Lu's reputation on purpose. He's up to no good. Lu Yurong was too lazy to say anything else. Her uncle was too lenient with this Lu Guangdi. He was asking for a mile after being given an inch. Although the guests and protectors of the public house could enter the backyard to play, most of the protectors and guests would not come over. After all, there were family members of the public house here. They needed to avoid arousing suspicion, Consort Jing said. To be fair, Head Chief Chu probably doesn't have such intentions. Lu Guangdi shook his head. Miss Lu won't agree to it, right? Of course I'm going. Lu Yurong said coldly. Lu Guangdi turned his head. Consort, I'll accompany Miss Lu. With me around, Miss Lu's reputation won't be damaged. Chapter 1136. And you're not serious, are you? Lu Yurong said impatiently. Consort Jing said, Young Lu, you can only listen and not speak. Don't cause trouble, especially not Head Chief Chu. Of course, Lu Guangdi said. I'll shut my mouth and pretend I'm mute. All right. Consort Jing smiled and nodded. Then you'll be Yurong's protector. Lu Guangdi fist saluted and said, Don't worry, Consort. I'll definitely protect Miss Lu. Lu Yurong gave him a sidelong glance. Protect me with your mediocre martial arts? I should be the one protecting you instead. Lu Guangdi's expression did not change. Consort Jing said, Yurong, you're going to bring a protector anyway. It doesn't matter if he goes alone. All right. Lu Yurong's bright eyes turned, and she agreed. Lu Guangdi was surprised. He did not expect Lu Yurong to agree so readily. Consort Jing let out a sigh of relief and smiled. She was also surprised that Lu Yurong agreed so quickly. She thought it would take a long time to persuade her. On the evening of the second day, when the lanterns were lit, Chu Li arrived at the Verdant Cloud brothel. He came to the front of the mansion and presented the invitation. A protector at the door brought him into a small courtyard. It was the Yushue courtyard. He did not invite Mo Qingyu to the Clear Rain courtyard. If he was alone, he would naturally look for Mo Qingyu. It was not appropriate for him to bring a friend to the Clear Rain courtyard. After Mo Qingyu retired, Miss Yushue rose to prominence. She was the most beautiful woman in the Verdant Cloud brothel. Not everyone could meet her, even if they had money. Amidst the sound of the guzheng, he entered the Yushue courtyard. As soon as he stepped into the house, he saw King Ping sitting cross-legged in front of a low table. He was enjoying the sound of the guzheng with his eyes closed. His back was straight, and his aura was faintly discernible. It was obvious that he had not completely left the battlefield after such a long time. The demeanor of a soldier had already been integrated into his bones. A petite lady was playing the guzheng with her head lowered. The sound of the guzheng was loud and clear. It was a completely different scene from her petite body. When she heard the sound of footsteps, the petite girl raised her head and looked over, revealing a beautiful and moving face that was exquisite beyond compare. It made one sigh in admiration at the wonders of nature. It was actually able to gather all the beauty in a single person, creating such an exquisite beauty. King Ping opened his eyes and nodded at him before closing his eyes to enjoy the music. Chu Li nodded and sat in front of a low table next to King Ping. A delicate young maid served tea, fruits, and snacks were already placed on the table. Chu Li said, "Give me a pot of wine and 2 cups." "Yes," the delicate maidservant replied softly. She quickly brought in a silver pot of wine and 2 jasper cups. Chu Li filled 2 jasper cups and handed one to King Ping. King Ping opened his eyes and took the jade cup. Both of them downed the contents in one gulp. The delicate maid sat next to Chu Li and filled their cups with the pot. Chu Li asked, "How has His Royal Highness been lately?" "It doesn't matter," King Ping said lightly. Chu Li frowned. "His Royal Highness hasn't come out of it yet." King Ping shook his head and said calmly, "I'm leading a befuddled life now. I'm just living one day at a time." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. The sound of the zither rose abruptly, like a white crane soaring into the sky. Chu Li took a sip of wine and did not say anything else. Both of them focused on enjoying the sound of the zither while looking at Miss Yushue's mesmerizing face. The sound of the zither slowly quieted down. Miss Yushue's fair fingers left the strings, and the sound of the zither seemed to be lingering in the room. Chu Li and King Ping did not speak as they were immersed in the aftertaste. After a while, Chu Li broke the silence. "Has His Royal Highness heard about the Crown Prince?" King Ping frowned at him. Chu Li said, "It should be true." "Father, you really can't wait." King Ping sneered. Miss Yushue was a little shocked. She looked at Chu Li and then at King Ping. She felt that she should not have listened to these words, but did not know how to leave. Chu Li glanced at her and smiled. "Miss Yushue, help us brew another pot of tea. A lady will be coming later." "Yes." Miss Yushue secretly sighed in relief. She gracefully bowed and left. Chu Li said, "Isn't His Royal Highness anxious?" "There's no point in being anxious." King Ping put down the jasper wine cup and sighed. "Father has always been on 6th younger brother's side. This time, he's taking advantage of the fact that I've released my military power to make 6th younger brother the crown prince." He's not giving me anything to say. Chuli nodded. King Ping said, now, if I say anything, everyone will attack me. Moreover, I can't stop sixth younger brother from becoming the crown prince. Chuli sighed. The time is not right. There's nothing I can do. Exactly, King Ping said calmly. There's no rush. Let sixth younger brother be happy for a while. Who knows what will happen in 10 years? Chuli smiled. I'm relieved that His Royal Highness is so calm. Why did you call Lu Yurong over? King Ping asked. Chuli said, to calm His Royal Highness Jing's heart. King Ping nodded. As soon as they finished speaking, footsteps were heard from outside. Come in, Yurong, Chuli said. The door was pushed open, and two people walked in slowly. Lu Yurong was dressed in a snow-white gown and a large hat. A white veil hung down to cover her face. She also wore a white veil that completely covered her face. Lu Guangdi followed behind her. Chuli smiled. I didn't expect young Master Lu to join in the fun. He looked at Lu Yurong. Flower protector. The princess insisted that he come along. She said that the verdant cloud brothel is not suitable for women to come alone. Lu Yurong shook her head. She took off her hat and white veil, revealing her charming face. She was a head above Miss Yushue. Lu Guangdi did not say a word, as if he was mute. He walked to the corner and sat down. Lu Yurong gave a fist salute to King Ping. Greetings, His Royal Highness. King Ping waved his hand. Sit down and talk. Lu Yurong glared at Chuli and shook her head gently. She originally wanted to use her ability to see through people's hearts to see through King Ping's mind. Now, it seemed like it was a waste of effort. King Ping was shrouded in a faint glow. This glow was emitted by Chuli. In this way, this meeting was for naught. He was fooled by Chuli once again. King Ping said, Miss Lu, you're here to ask me what I think about the crown prince's position, right? Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. She thanked Miss Yushue who served tea and looked at King Ping. Although your Royal Highness has given up your military power, you still have an important influence in the military. The government offices in the Ministry of War follow your Royal Highness' lead. King Ping said, I'm not interested in the crown prince. Tell King Jing not to worry. Thank you, your Royal Highness. Lu Yurong gave a fist salute. King Ping said, if King Jing can promise me to lead the troops to attack the Zheng dynasty in the future, I can promise to give up the fight for the throne. Really? Lu Yurong was stunned. King Ping said, I'm like a walking corpse now. My only thought is to avenge the princess. I won't think about anything else. I'll report the truth. Lu Yurong said slowly, if I agree directly, your Royal Highness won't believe me. Let King Jing come and talk to me personally. King Ping said. Lu Yurong smiled. Chapter 1137. P.S. Update complete. She sighed in relief. King Ping really wanted to take revenge. As long as he could do that, the throne was not important to him. King Ping was a shrewd man. She could not tell if it was real or not, so she believed it for now. Lu Yurong turned to look at Chu Li. Your Royal Highness and Chu Li are very close. I'm curious, where did your friendship come from? King Ping said, Chu Li saved my life before. He went to the Imperial Mausoleum because of me. No wonder. Lu Yurong smiled. Chu Li is a loyal man. Chivalry is what Chu Li is like, King Ping said. Lu Guangdi curled his lips. He looked at the smiling Chu Li and felt uncomfortable. He wanted to say something sarcastic, but he restrained himself. He was furious. Initially, he came with Lu Yurong with the intention to make a contribution. He could do what Lu Yurong could do. He could also see through people's minds and see what Chu Li invited was thinking. He might be able to find Chu Li's weakness and weakness. He did not expect that when he sat in this room, Chu Li would emit a hazy golden light that shrouded King Ping and Lu Yurong. His special skill was completely ineffective. He was used to using special skills to see through people's minds. He knew what others were thinking, and everything was under his control. Without this, it felt like everything was out of his control. He felt insecure, as if he was deaf and blind. He then encouraged himself. As long as King Ping left the area covered by Chu Li's golden light, he would be able to see through King Ping's mind. Let's not talk about the imperial court tonight. We'll talk about love. Chu Li raised his glass and smiled. How's the war between the Li and Qiu dynasties? Your Royal Highness, do you know? It's almost over. King Ping shook his head. I thought it would be a big war, but it's only in Falling Autumn City. The war is only controlled at the border. What if Falling Autumn City is breached? Chu Li asked. King Ping said, it seems like both sides have a tacit understanding to fight in Falling Autumn City. Even if the Qiu dynasty breached Falling Autumn City, the Qiu dynasty's cavalry will not march in. Why? Lu Yurong frowned. Is there someone behind this? King Ping said slowly, it should be the Fu dynasty. This Fu dynasty? Lu Yurong scoffed. She had a deep hatred for the Fu dynasty. The Fu dynasty's shadow could be seen in almost every war. They instigated discord and made life difficult for the four nations, but he reaped the benefits without doing anything. Unfortunately, everyone knew that there was nothing they could do. They could only let the Fu dynasty lead them by the nose. Chu Li asked, the Fu dynasty was the one who started the war, wasn't it? Almost, King Ping said. Chu Li pondered and said, the Ji dynasty is weak and has always been in conflict with the Li dynasty. Once a war breaks out, will be destroyed by the Li dynasty. Lu Yurong glared at him in annoyance. Oh, right, he said that he's going to master a godly skill soon, and his power will increase by several folds. When the time comes, don't be defeated by him. I'll be embarrassed too. Chu Li smiled. Then I'll have to experience his divine technique. Otherwise, even if I chase him away, he won't be satisfied and will come back. All right, let's see if you can defeat him. Lu Yurong said. Lu Guangdi and King Ping happened to enter and exit one after another. King Ping returned while Lu Guangdi went out. Lu Guangdi fist saluted. King Ping nodded slightly and walked into the house. Lu Guangdi quickly returned to the house. His face was gloomy and his brows were furrowed. He realized that his special technique was useless against Chu Li. It was being suppressed everywhere and was becoming more and more useless. King Ping had a treasure on him that emitted an invisible force to prevent prying. Even without Chu Li's protection, He could not do anything to King Ping. He could not see through King Ping's thoughts. After King Ping sat down, he straightened his body and smiled. Miss Lu, I think you and Chu Li are a good match. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. Why would your Royal Highness think so? Lu, Guangdi's face darkened even more. He wanted nothing more than to seal King Ping's mouth. King Ping smiled and said, How many men in this world can surpass your intelligence, Miss Lu? Moreover, you're still young, so only Chu Li is suitable. Chu Li is married. Lu Yurong smiled, without changing her expression. Moreover, if the two of us were to fight all day, it would be too tiring. Chu Li grinned. Looks like Miss Lu doesn't like me. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. Do you think you can attract women? Only Shao Qi has unique taste. Chu Li shook his head. King Ping laughed. Lu Guangdi breathed a sigh of relief and looked better. Chapter 1138. The three of them chatted and laughed happily. There was no sign of scheming at all. Lady Yu Shui secretly sighed in relief. Fortunately, they were starting to listen to their conversation. It was better for her to avoid their previous conversation, as she could easily get herself killed. It was really dangerous. The three of them drank and chatted until midnight before dispersing. During this time, Lu Guangdi did not say a word. He only sat at the side and did not even touch the snacks, as if he was invisible. The three of them ignored him as if they did not see him. Public House early in the morning. The bright sun shone on the public house. The surface of the vast lake was shrouded in mist like a veil. The martial arts field in the public house was in full swing, and the courtyards were busy. Chu Li sat quietly in the main hall of the public house and looked at the three Ning brothers. The three of them lowered their heads and looked solemn. They were not in high spirits. They understood that they were betrayed by the commander and were extremely angry. Although they did not listen to Gu Yu, they were still secret guardians. No matter what, Gu Yu was the commander. How could he use someone else to do his dirty work? It was too cruel. Their loyalty to the secret guardians' hall was greatly reduced. Look at you guys. You're so dejected. Chu Li looked at them and shook his head. Didn't you guys expect this? Ning Buiyuan sighed. Centurion, who would have thought that the commander would be so heartless? He's always been like this. Chu Li shook his head. Now that you guys have given up, what are your plans? We can't go back to the secret guardians' hall. Ning Buiyuan sighed. We can only wander the world. If they returned to the secret guardians' hall, they would be locked up and interrogated. They would be asked how they escaped from the Tempest Temple. It was impossible to escape after being caught by the Tempest Temple unless there was something fishy, and they surrendered to the temple. Therefore, not only would they not be heroes if they returned, they would be treated as traitors. Even if they clenched their teeth, they would never be able to make a comeback. It was better not to return. Chu Li laughed. You're still playing tricks on me. Are you guys willing to stay in the public house? Of course we are. Ning Buiyuan nodded. Thank you for taking us in, Centurion. Chu Li said, think about it carefully. Once you step into the High Duke's public house, you'll never be able to return to the Secret Guardians' Hall. Even if I return to the Secret Guardians' Hall, you won't be able to return either. Of course we're willing to not be Secret Guardians, Ning Buiyuan quickly said, but the Emperor, he was worried about the Emperor. Once a Secret Guardian, always a Secret Guardian. Once the Emperor knew that the three of them had entered the public house, he was afraid that it would cause a lot of trouble. Not only would the three of them be executed, but it would also implicate the public house and even the Centurion. Chu Li said, don't worry, no one will discover you. Have you cultivated the bone shrinkage skill that I gave you? Yes. The three of them nodded. They were grandmasters, so it would be easy for them to practice the bone shrinking skill. Chuli nodded. Use that to change your appearance. Who will recognize you from now on? Yes. The three of them smiled. They could change their appearance after using the bone shrinking technique. Although it was a little awkward, it was fine as long as they didn't interact with other people and stayed in their own courtyards. Chuli said, I'm still the chief of the Gloriesville courtyard of the High Duke's public house. You're considered to be part of the Gloriesville courtyard. Yes. The three of them smiled brightly. Compared to the secret guardian's hall, staying under Chuli's command was the most comfortable. It was more exciting and satisfying. Chuli pondered. The Gloriesville courtyard's responsibility is to eliminate traitors, so it's a place that offends people. Don't even think about having a good relationship with the people of the public house. Don't expect any friendliness. Yes. The three of them nodded seriously. Chuli said, other than the public house, there will be other things for you to do. You must be mentally prepared to go to the Li dynasty or even the Fu dynasty. Yes. The three of them nodded. Chuli waved his hand. Go, rest for a few days before you start. The three of them quickly fist saluted. Xueling came in and took the three of them away. She was responsible for their accommodation and told them how to establish themselves in the public house and familiarize themselves with the situation in the public house. Chuli returned to King An's imperial residence and went to his courtyard to continue cultivating his swordsmanship. Now that his heavenly demonic power had reached its peak, it was almost difficult for him to progress further. Even after he swallowed Fu Qingya's heavenly demonic orb, his heavenly demonic field had only increased to 100 meters, but there was no qualitative change in his heavenly demonic power. It was extremely difficult to cultivate it to perfect mastery. Moreover, he had no intention of perfecting the heavenly demonic power. He still wanted to practice the spirit beast technique so that he could defy nature and become a god. Once he perfected the heavenly demonic power, he would immediately ascend to heaven and could not stay in this world. He still had nostalgia for this world. After practicing his swordsmanship for a while, he suddenly disappeared in a flash and transformed into Zhi Ying's appearance before appearing in the heavenly demonic sect. In the main hall of the heavenly demon sect, the 4 grand elders were meditating in front of the heavenly demon statue. When they saw him suddenly appear, they all clasped their hands in greeting. He was now the sect leader, and his status was different from before. Chuli said, "Honorable masters, have you found the dragon taming technique?" The 4 elders smiled bitterly. Elder Du sighed. Sect leader, the dragon taming art is the most difficult divine technique to obtain in this world. Chuli asked, "You didn't get it?" The 4 elders shook their heads. Chuli frowned and pondered. "Sect master, why are you looking for the art of dragon control?" Elder Li asked in a deep voice. Chuli said, "I have my uses for it." "Is there no other way?" Goddess Attraction Mountain isn't an ordinary sect. The 4 elders shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Elder Bai chuckled. "Sect leader, if it's any other martial arts, even if we can't obtain all of them, we'll still be able to obtain some superficial knowledge. For example, the Church of the Divine Blood's bloody garment, divine power, and the Great One Palace's Great One technique are both at least 1 or 2 levels. However, Goddess Attraction Mountain is different. We can't impersonate Goddess Attraction Mountain's disciples at all. They almost never leave the mountain." Chuli scoffed. "That means we can't get it." "Yes." The 4 elders nodded helplessly. Chuli said, "I don't believe that there's a heart technique that heavenly demonic sect can't get their hands on. Give me detailed information about Goddess Attraction Mountain. I'll do it myself." "Sect leader, you mustn't." The four elders hurriedly shook their heads. Chu Li frowned as he looked at them. Elder Du said, Goddess Attraction Mountain can't be provoked. There are existences that can communicate with the Grandmasters. They'll be able to sense anyone who cultivates the dragon taming technique immediately and come after us. Chu Li was surprised. Elder Du said, This isn't just a rumor. It's true. They can sense anyone who cultivates the dragon taming technique. There are only a few people in the world who cultivate the dragon taming technique, so they know it very well. Chu Li said impatiently, Then why didn't you say so earlier? He believed them because the heavenly demonic disaster could do the same thing. With the help of the heavenly demonic stone, they could sense any disciple who cultivated the heavenly demonic power in the world. The four elders felt slightly awkward. Elder Du said, We thought you were just mentioning it casually, sect leader. Chu Li said impatiently, I'm really going to cultivate it. Forget it then. Elder Du shook his head. Cultivating the dragon taming technique is really suicidal. Are they more difficult to deal with than enlightened masters? Chu Li scoffed. We have the heavenly demon statue. Why should we be afraid of them? It's different. Elder Du frowned. Every time we use the heavenly demon statue, our vitality is greatly damaged and we need to rest for a while. They might not retreat after one attack, and they might not be easier to deal with than enlightened masters. In that case, I have no hope of cultivating the dragon taming technique, Chu Li said. Chapter 1139. Chu Li frowned and remained silent. Sect leader, can we know why you insist on cultivating the dragon taming technique? Elder Bai asked with a smile. Chu Li glanced at him and scoffed. I want to cultivate a spirit beast heart technique and become an enlightened master. The four of them were stunned and in disbelief. Chu Li asked, Why? Can't I? Sect leader, it's been a long time since someone cultivated a spirit beast heart technique to become an enlightened master. Who suggested this to you? Isn't this going to harm you? Elder Du said impatiently. If you want to cultivate a spirit beast heart technique to become an enlightened master, you'll have to enter the 100,000 hills. Once you enter the 100,000 hills, you won't be able to leave. Even an enlightened master won't be able to survive there. Chu Li replied, I have my own plans. Sect leader, if you cultivate the heavenly demonic power, there's still hope for you to become an enlightened master. Your current achievements are unprecedented, and even our heavenly demonic sect's founder might not be able to defeat you. Why do you have to go so far? Elder Du asked. They knew that Chu Li's heavenly demonic power had become extremely powerful because of the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique. More importantly, he was very young. None of the sect leaders had such a cultivation level at such a young age. Fu Qingya was already extremely powerful, but he was still devoured by Chu Li. With the sect leader's current cultivation level, it was not impossible for him to cultivate it to perfect mastery. Chu Li shook his head. Do you think it's easy to cultivate the heavenly demonic power to perfect mastery? None of the sect leaders have been able to do it. I'm not confident about it. Besides, the heavenly demon statue is unpredictable. I'd rather cultivate a spirit beast heart technique. But the four grand elders sighed, helplessly. If it was anyone else who reached the sect master's current accomplishments, they would be satisfied. Even if they couldn't defeat a heavenly deity, there wouldn't be many opponents under the heavenly deity level. They were carefree, and they were so young, so why did they have to seek trouble for themselves? They immediately understood that it was precisely because he was young that he was ambitious and determined. If he was at their age, he would not be so eager to cultivate a spirit beast heart technique to become an enlightened master. They shook their heads helplessly when they saw Chu Li's determined expression. They knew that they could not stop him. I must cultivate the dragon taming technique, Chu Li said in a low voice. Don't think that it's impossible. There will always be a way. The 4 grand elders shook their heads. Chu Li cast a sidelong glance at them and scoffed. Honorable masters, you're really useless. Sect leader, it's not that we're useless. It's just that the goddess attraction mountain is not to be trifled with. The dragon taming art has not been passed down, Elder Du said with a bitter smile. If you want to cultivate the dragon taming art, you can only become a disciple of the goddess attraction mountain. How do I become a disciple of goddess attraction mountain? Chu Li asked. This. Elder Du shook his head. The goddess attraction mountain doesn't accept disciples. They're the ones who actively look for disciples. If that's the case, there's no loophole to exploit? Chu Li frowned. Which sect has a good relationship with Goddess Attraction Mountain? The Goddess Attraction Mountain has always stood at the top of the 8 great sects, looking down on the other 7 sections. The only one we have a good relationship with is the Stargazing Pavilion. Elder Du muttered. However, the Stargazing Pavilion is similar to the Goddess Attraction Mountain. It's also isolated from the world and doesn't mix with the secular world. You won't be able to sneak in. Chu Li scoffed. I don't believe there's such a thing as a flawless sect. Sect leader, you don't have to spend so much effort on it. You might as well spend it on studying the heavenly demonic power. Elder Bai said, helplessly. Chu Li shook his head. I've made up my mind. You guys can think of another way. I'll be back in a few days. Yes. The 4 of them nodded helplessly. Chu Li suddenly disappeared without a trace. It was late at night, and the moonlight shone like water. Chu Li suddenly opened his eyes and woke up. He was holding Shao Qi's soft and delicate body in his arms. A faint fragrance lingered in the air. Shao Qi was sleeping soundly in his arms. Chu Li did not want to wake her up, so he gently pulled himself out and put on a silk nightgown. He disappeared from the bedroom in a flash and appeared in the courtyard. A graceful woman stood under the moonlight. She was wearing a bluish-white gown, and her almond-shaped eyes shone brightly like the moonlight. She was quietly sizing him up. It was Lu Yurong. Chu Li waved his hand to signal her not to speak and glided out of the courtyard. Lu Yurong wrinkled her nose and glanced in the direction of the bedroom. Then she glided out of the courtyard with him. The 2 of them appeared in the backyard. The moonlight was like water, and the backyard was brightly lit. The chirping of insects could be heard, and the flowers that bloomed at night exuded a delicate fragrance that floated in the air. Chu Li sat in the gazebo and looked at her helplessly. It's so late at night. What's so urgent? Chu Li, is it because of you? Lu Yurong scoffed and stared at him with her almond-shaped eyes. Her face was not covered with a white veil, revealing her charming face. Under the moonlight, she looked like a white jade sculpture that exuded a gentle brilliance. Chu Li scoffed. What happened? Hurry up and tell me. I need to go back to sleep. You must be sleeping soundly with Shao Qi in your arms. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Chu Li said, I'll really go back if you don't tell me. Someone said that King Ping is colluding with the Holy Church of Light. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li frowned. What a joke. It's not funny at all. Lu Yurong said, the Holy Church of Light's disciple was indeed found in King Ping's imperial residence, but he has escaped. The secret guardian's hall did it? Chu Li frowned. Lu Yurong nodded slowly. Chu Li said, King Ping has always been hostile to the Li dynasty. The Holy Church of Light can't wait to kill him. This disciple of the Holy Church of Light who escaped might be trying to assassinate him. How can you say that it's colluding? This disciple of the Holy Church of Light is not an ordinary person, Lu Yurong said. She's the consort's maid. Chu Li frowned and remained silent. The Holy Church of Light was indeed resourceful. Although he was a branch leader, he had never come into contact with such confidential information. The Holy Church of Light had its own unique way of using spies. The other sects were far behind them. Even if it's the consort, it doesn't necessarily mean that King Ping is colluding with the Holy Church of Light, Chu Li said. Lu Yurong said, everyone says that King Ping is colluding with the Holy Church of Light. I think someone is stirring up trouble. Chu Li pondered. He stood up and paced with his hands behind his back. Lu Yurong scoffed. Everyone thinks that it's King Jing who did it. He wants to completely defeat King Ping and make him lose the possibility of inheriting the throne. So you're taking the blame? Chu Li asked. Of course. Lu Yurong said. Otherwise, I wouldn't have looked for you in such a hurry. This is no small matter. The emperor had allowed King Jing to inherit the position of crown prince, but it did not mean that he was indifferent to King Ping. On the contrary, the emperor felt even more guilty towards King Ping. Once this matter was exposed, the emperor would definitely be furious. He would feel that King Jing was not magnanimous enough, and that his actions were vicious. King Ping was too pitiful. Even if the emperor could not change the candidate of the crown prince this time, such anger would accumulate over time. It was inevitable that there would be no change in the succession of the throne in the future. This method could very well be a ruse by King Ping to gain sympathy. Chu Li stopped and frowned. It seems that there are still people who are not satisfied. Lu Yurong said, is it really not King Ping? She knew that King Ping and Chu Li were very close. King Ping might not have thought of such a method. It might be Chu Li's idea. Chu Li said, from what I understand, it's not King Ping. Is it really not King Jing? What do you think? Lu Yurong said impatiently. Chu Li pondered. Then it might be King Chung. Chapter 1140. P.S. Update complete. How could it be King Chung? Lu Yurong said thoughtfully, could it be that King Chung is also aiming for the throne? Chu Li burst into laughter. Why doesn't King Chung want the throne? Lu Yurong opened her mouth, but closed it again. All the princes had a chance to become the emperor. Although King Jing had the highest chance, it did not mean that it was impossible for the other princes. To the princes, they were only one step away from becoming the supreme of the 9 tripod cauldrons. It was indeed an endless temptation. The taste of power was the most intoxicating, and no man could resist it. Chu Li continued, however, there's another possibility. The people from the Holy Church of Light want to muddy the waters to buy time for the Li dynasty to recover. Moreover, if they manage to trap King Ping, it'll be a great boon to them. As long as it's not King Ping, Lu Yurong said. The way she saw it, King Ping was still the biggest threat. The rest of the kings were nothing to worry about. As for King Chung, as long as King Jing did not seek his own death, King Chung would not stand a chance. It would be useless no matter what he did. Chu Li smiled. No matter how anxious you are, there's no need to come here in the middle of the night, right? To avoid arousing suspicion. Lu Yurong said lightly, there are too many eyes during the day. Who knows what people will say? Chu Li smiled. King Jing wants you to keep your distance from me? Lu Yurong shook her head gently. I'm leaving tomorrow. Chu Li was surprised. You still want to leave after this? It has nothing to do with the big picture, Lu Yurong said. If this matter is not handled properly, it will be a hidden danger in the future, but it will not affect the current position of the crown prince. The emperor has made up his mind. He will not let anyone else be the crown prince, let alone Prince Cheng. When this matter came out, the emperor was even more determined. Originally, he needed a period of time to prepare in the court and create momentum. When the time was right, he would naturally announce the ownership of the crown prince. Now, it seemed that he could not afford to do so. Everything was simple and fast. Chu Li said, "Unfortunately, we can only deal with Lu Guangdi after a month. If you leave now, I'm afraid you won't be able to see it." "You don't have to see it with your own eyes." Lu Yurong smiled faintly. "I believe you will humiliate him so much that he will never be able to lift his head again." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Don't forget about Gu Yu. He won't be a commander for long. Once King Jing becomes the crown prince, he'll tell his majesty about Gu Yu." Lu Yurong faintly replied. Chu Li frowned. "It might not affect Gu Yu. After all, the secret guardian's hall is the emperor's eyes and ears, not the crown prince's. If we can't use the secret guardian's hall as our eyes and ears, what privilege does the crown prince have?" Lu Yurong said, "I believe the emperor will hand the secret guardian's hall to the crown prince." That's true." Chu Li pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile. "Looks like you can fulfill your promise. Even if His Majesty doesn't agree to it, I still have other tricks up my sleeves." Lu Yurong said, "I can always get rid of Gu Yu. Don't worry." Chu Li asked, "Did you return to the public house to lie low?" "I'll listen to you," Lu Yurong said lightly. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. The two of them were fighting against each other. Lu Yurong's sudden departure made him a little reluctant. After all, it was satisfying to compete with someone who was on the same level as him. Lu Yurong said, "I think you're too close to King Ping." Chu Li smiled at her. Lu Yurong said, "Although King Ping has lost his military power and doesn't care about trivial matters, he's still King Jing's biggest threat. He'll do anything for revenge. If King Jing doesn't allow him to take revenge in the future, I don't know what he'll do. He might even implicate you. Your king and's imperial residence can't afford to be tossed around. For the sake of King An's imperial residence, you should distance yourself from King Ping." Chu Li laughed out loud. Lu Yurong scoffed. "What are you laughing at?" Chu Li said, "You're giving him a taste of his own medicine." "Am I not right?" Lu Yurong scoffed. Of course, she knew that Chu Li could see through her intentions. She was trying to drive a wedge between him and King Ping, to remove the threat. However, the most powerful thing was to know that the other party was up to no good, but still think that it was reasonable and could not be ignored. It was just like how he told her to keep a distance from King Jing. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. "Don't worry, I have no intention of helping King Ping seize the throne. Are you willing to stand aside and watch?" Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li said, "It doesn't matter who sits on the throne. King An's imperial residence is still King An's imperial residence." "That might not be the case." Lu Yurong said, "King Ping is a general. Once a military man takes over the country will not be at peace. Given his stubborn character, the Fu dynasty will definitely be ruthless. When that happens, the Ji dynasty will be in turmoil and there will be endless wars." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Lu Yurong's words made sense. King Ping indeed had the temperament of a military man. He was unyielding but not tactful. Once he became the emperor, he might not be able to stand the Fu dynasty's anger and do something extreme, which would affect the stability of the Ji dynasty. To the common people, no matter how righteous a war was, it was still painful. They would rather be a dog in peace than a man in chaos. Lu Yurong said, "Chu Li, you're different from me. You know the suffering of the common people. You won't put the common people in an abyss of suffering for your own selfish reasons, will you?" Chu Li could not help but laugh. I don't have the ability to affect the world's situation. Moreover, King Ping understands the dangers of war better than King Jing, so he will consider it more carefully. Humph, I've tested you out, haven't I? Lu Yurong pointed at him and scoffed. You still have the intention to help King Ping seize the throne. Chu Li waved his hand and smiled. I'm just refuting you. Moreover, there are still about 10 years left. It's too early to talk about this. Who knows, someone might assassinate them the next day. We can't ignore assassins. Lu Yurong frowned. King Ping is too careless. He actually allowed the Holy Church of Light's disciple to hide for so long. Fortunately, it was only the consort's maid. If it was his scribe, wouldn't it be terrifying? Chu Li remained silent. He was thinking about whether the consort's assassination had anything to do with the Holy Church of Light. Lu Yurong said, no matter what, King Ping has made a huge mistake this time. I'm sure the chancellors won't let go of this opportunity to attack him. Chu Li nodded. Apart from the Ministry of War, the rest of the government offices supported King Jing. How could they let go of this opportunity to completely overthrow King Ping? King Ping was wronged again this time, so he must be very frustrated. Lu Yurong said, I've said what I need to say. Let's go. Chu Li said, you should be careful too. I'm afraid the Holy Church of Light has their eyes on you. Lu Yurong scoffed. Let's see if they dare to come. Chu Li said, if I kill you and frame King Ping, what will King Jing do? You'll have to be able to kill me first. Lu Yurong smiled. Chu Li shook his head. Don't underestimate the Holy Church of Light. All right, I'll be careful. Lu Yurong nodded. She had 7 maids by her side, and with the 7 of them working together, they would be able to block even the most powerful experts, so she was very confident. Chu Li knew that she had already fallen for him. Gather? CI&I, eh? Insolent and insolent, loyal news, no more than the submerged copy beer. Chapter 1141. Lu Yurong fluttered away, without a sound. The protectors of the imperial residence of King and did not even notice. Chu Li's martial arts skills improved by leaps and bounds. Lu Yurong did not stop either. She worked hard to improve herself, always wanting to catch up to Chu Li. Now, her martial arts skills were far better than before. The protectors of the imperial residence of King and were not even worth mentioning in front of her. Chu Li sat in the gazebo, deep in thought. He had to think clearly about what he wanted to do. He could not act on a whim and help King Ping just because he pitied him. He could not view the world as a smooth road. Once King Ping became the emperor, their past friendship might not be of any use. Instead, it would become a source of trouble. Although the fight for the throne was exciting, it was also full of danger. One mistake could lead to a fatal disaster or even a tragic death. It could even implicate the public house and the Temple of Autumn. Since it was so dangerous, he should not be helping others. No matter how good King Ping was, he was still King Ping. In the future, he would not be able to influence King Ping. It was difficult for his efforts to be proportional to his gains. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Xiao Qi, who was dressed in a white nightgown, walked in lightly and gracefully. Chu Li raised his head and smiled at her. Xiao Qi's hair was black and shiny, like black satin under the moonlight. It made her face look like white jade, and her eyes were clear. Who's coming? Lu Yurong, Chu Li said. Xiao Qi's eyes flashed. Chu Li chuckled. She's here to question me about how Consort Ping's maid is a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. Everyone is saying that King Ping is in cahoots with the Holy Church of Light, and they're trying to destroy King Ping. Lu Yurong suspects that I'm the one who spread the rumor. Consort Ping's maid is a disciple of the Holy Church of Light? Xiao Qi was shocked. Her bright eyes swept across the surroundings. Seeing that there was no one around, she shook her head and said indifferently, "It can't be true, right? What is the Holy Church of Light trying to do?" She knew Chu Li's identity as Xiao De, either to assassinate or to gather information. Chu Li said, "Being able to hide for so long is quite a feat. You didn't recognize him?" Xiao Qi asked. Chu Li shook his head. Maybe it wasn't a problem at that time, but Lu Yurong is leaving Fairy's capital. She's leaving? Xiao Qi frowned. Could it be that the matter regarding the crown prince has been settled? Chu Li nodded slowly. King Ping's matter will help the emperor make up his mind. We must cut the Gordian knot quickly. If we delay any longer, there will be more trouble. If that's the case, Xiao Qi sat opposite him and muttered, "That's a good thing." Chu Li nodded. Xiao Qi sized him up. "What's bothering you?" "I'm thinking about seizing the throne." Chu Li frowned and muttered, "Should I participate?" "You want to help King Ping?" Xiao Qi asked. Chu Li shook his head. "I want to help Su," and Xiao Qi was startled, but she quickly said, "Suan is one generation behind him. So I'm afraid there's no hope. There's still a sliver of hope if we help King Ping, but the hope isn't great. King Jing's situation is almost set in stone." Everyone in the world knew that King Jing would be the next emperor. Where there is a will, there is a way. Chu Li smiled. If King Jing and King Ping can't do it, and even King Cheng can't do it, why can't it be Suan? That's too difficult. Xiao Qi said, "Besides, it's too dangerous. It's a life and death struggle for the throne. Do you really want to go against King Jing and King Ping?" Chu Li shook his head. "Let's take it one step at a time. How can we think of a way to complete it quietly and without any fanfare?" "That's even more difficult," Xiao Qi said. Chu Li smiled. "Isn't it boring if it's not difficult? Life is only interesting when there are challenges. It's too boring to sit in the residence all day long. We still have a long life ahead of us." Xiao Qi said, "It won't be easy for you to go against Lu Yurong. She's too smart." Chu Li smiled. "It'll be great if we can think of a way to rope her in. If we work together, our chances of winning will increase greatly. It's actually very easy for you to rope her in." Xiao Qi smiled faintly. Chu Li asked, "What can I do?" "You know," Xiao Qi flashed a smile that was as dazzling as the first light after a snowstorm. Chu Li could not help but laugh. "Ha, you can be jealous too." "I'm not jealous." Xiao Qi pursed her lips and smiled. "I don't believe that she doesn't have feelings for you. You're thinking the wrong way," Chu Li said. Xiao Qi said, "You don't have to explain. I understand that you two appreciate each other and have similar minds. You can be considered bosom friends." Chu Li reached out and pulled her over to sit on his thighs. He felt the amazing elasticity of her thighs and smelled the refreshing fragrance on her body. "With you around, I don't have such thoughts," Xiao Qi said. "Men's nature is different from women. If you like one person, you can also like the other at the same time." Chu Li changed the topic and smiled. "Does the High Duke's public house have any ancestral teachings that forbid us from participating in the fight for the throne?" Xiao Qi said, "The High Duke's public house doesn't have to do these things. It's a thankless task. No matter who becomes the emperor, the High Duke's public house will always be the High Duke's public house. The emperor is like water, but the High Duke's public house is made of iron." Chu Li said, "That's good. I've decided to let Su and be the emperor." "It'll be difficult," Xiao Qi said. "Where there's a will, there's a way." Chu Li said, "Otherwise, it'll become someone else's wedding dress. However, this matter can't be rushed. We'll have to wait until Suan is a few years older." "The throne doesn't wait for anyone," Xiao Qi said. Chu Li smiled. "For now, Let's make the situation more complicated. I'll have to inform King Ping first. King Ping wants the throne too. How can he agree to it? Xiao Qi frowned. Chu Li said, I understand King Ping's thoughts. He doesn't want to be the emperor. He only wants revenge. He won't pin his hopes on you, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li smiled. I'll try to convince him. The next morning, Chu Li left King An's imperial residence and appeared outside King Ping's imperial residence. After the protectors of King Ping's imperial residence informed him of his arrival, Chu Li entered the residence. King Ping personally welcomed him, and the two of them went to the lake in the backyard. Chu Li looked at his calm expression. He was not affected by the rumors. The two of them sat in a gazebo on the lake. After the maid who served tea left, King Ping said, You're here to comfort me, aren't you? Chu Li shook his head. It's not a big deal. If nothing goes wrong, the emperor will appoint King Jing as the crown prince in the next 2 days. King Ping nodded and quietly looked at the sparkling surface of the lake. Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness, I want Suan to fight for the throne. King Ping was stunned and turned to look at him in surprise. Chu Li said, I don't want to be controlled by others and be restrained by the emperor. You won't help me? King Ping asked. Chu Li sighed. Your Royal Highness, your chances of winning are too small. He had never figured out why the emperor did not pass the throne to King Ping. He only thought it was a personal preference. Now that he understood the emperor's helplessness. Suan's chances of winning are even smaller, right? King Ping frowned. He was a little annoyed and felt betrayed. Chu Li wanted to help him seize the throne. Chu Li sighed. Although Suan is young, his chances of inheriting the throne are higher than yours. If the emperor really wanted you to inherit the throne, he wouldn't have insisted on appointing King Jing for so many years. In terms of contributions to the Ji dynasty, King Jing is far behind you. In terms of father-son relationship, the emperor likes you more. King Ping frowned and nodded. Chu Li said, You should know the emperor's concerns. Ah. King Ping sighed and shook his head with a bitter smile. It's different for Su, and Chu Li smiled. The Arhut of the Titanium Temple is mellow and intelligent. He won't have too much of a conflict with the Fu dynasty. Ruling by doing nothing is the best for the Ji dynasty. King Ping said, but Suan is a generation younger. He doesn't have any advantages compared to sixth younger brother. Chu Li said, if Suan can get your support, your Royal Highness, he will have an advantage over King Jing. Chapter 1142. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Yes, as long as your Royal Highness supports Suan, then Suan's chances will be higher than King Jing's. The throne isn't passed down this way. There's no such rule. King Ping frowned. Chu Li smiled. The key is Suan's identity. As a Buddhist disciple, he naturally has the support of the Titanium Temple. Once he inherits the throne, he'll be able to break the situation where he's been suppressed by the Tempest Temple for a long time. The Tempest Temple has no choice but to be obedient. This way, the Ji dynasty can go all out against foreign enemies. Even if they can't deal with the other three nations, they'll still be able to gain the upper hand and change the Ji dynasty's ranking among the 5 nations. I'm sure the emperor won't reject this temptation. The Ji dynasty has been weak for too long. They need a boost. Suan. King Ping sighed and shook his head. Chu Li said, I know you're not satisfied, your Royal Highness, but this is how the world works. You can't change it based on your will. As for sending troops to attack the Zheng dynasty, I'm sure Suan will agree. King Ping sighed and said, we can't rely on others for revenge. Once the Fu dynasty interferes, will Suan dare to offend them? Only when he became the emperor could he disregard the pressure from the Fu dynasty and forcefully attack the Zheng dynasty, destroy the mysterious pavilion, and avenge the princess consort. Chu Li furrowed his brows and said, "Then His Royal Highness means—" King Ping remained silent. He also knew that his chances of ascending to the throne were slim. Even if King Jing was not around, or even if there was an accident when King An was still around, it might be King An's. Then it would be King Cheng's. Although he seemed to be very close to the throne, he was actually the furthest away. No matter what, it would never be his turn. Chu Li sighed. "Forget it. How about this? I'll first destroy the mysterious pavilion to avenge the princess. Then your Royal Highness will help Suen. What do you think? Do you have a way to destroy the mysterious pavilion?" King Ping asked. Chu Li said, "Where there's a will, there's a way. I'll give it a try." "All right, if you can destroy the mysterious pavilion, I'll support Suen," King Ping said in a low voice. Chu Li smiled. "It's a deal then," King Ping said in a low voice. "Don't worry, I won't go back on my word." Chu Li said, "If Suen inherits the throne, he will not take away your military power, your Royal Highness." King Ping said in a low voice, "It's fine. I'm not that interested in fighting a war." "Very well." Chu Li clapped his hands and exclaimed, "Now, there's only one obstacle, mysterious pavilion. We must destroy them." The mysterious pavilion is similar to the secret guardian's hall. It won't be that easy to destroy them. King Ping said faintly, "Martial arts alone won't be enough." They're in Zheng dynasty's capital city, and there are enlightened masters keeping watch. Chu Li nodded. "I will think of a way. Your Royal Highness, please wait patiently for my good news." "All right, I'll wait and see," King Ping said in a low voice. At noon, Chu Li was practicing his swordsmanship in his courtyard when he heard the news that the emperor had announced the appointment of King Jing as the crown prince. The court was calm, as if it was supposed to be like this. As expected, other than the Ministry of War, no other officials objected, so it passed smoothly. Once the position of the crown prince was established, the grand ceremony of the heavens would be held the next day. It was a declaration of the crown prince's ascension to the throne to the realm beyond heaven. As the head chief of King An's imperial residence, Chu Li was in charge of everything, so he was qualified to participate in the crowning ceremony. Early in the morning, everyone in the imperial residence dressed up. The three princesses, Shao Qi, Leng Qing, and Leng Qiu, and Chu Li were escorted out of Fairy's capital's East Gate by the protectors. The East Gate was bustling with activity. All officials above rank 3 were qualified to participate in the crowning ceremony. As soon as they exited the East Gate, they saw a group of people walking slowly in front of them. Using the omniscient mirror, they saw that it was the people from King Jing's imperial residence. Chu Li shook his head, helplessly. Shao Qi turned to look at Chu Li with a faint smile. Chu Li sighed. What a coincidence. He really did not want to see the people from King Jing's imperial residence. The women were all riding on horses and wore white veils that covered their faces, revealing only their bright eyes. They were protected by the protectors. Although there were protectors with sharp eyes standing on both sides of the main road, they still did not feel safe. A moment later, a horse galloped over but was stopped by Zhu Tianhua. Zhang lied, and the others when it got close. Zhang lied quickly came over to report, "Head chief, it's the external chief of King Jing's imperial residence. He's here on King Jing's order to invite you over for a talk." Chu Li frowned and nodded. He said to Shao Qi and the other women, "Everyone, walk slowly. Just follow behind. I'll go and meet King Jing." "Go ahead." Shao Shi said, "Be careful. He's the crown prince now." Chu Li nodded. He spurred his horse to the front. An elder sat on the horse, and closed fist saluted. Head Chief Chu, His Royal Highness has invited you. Chu Li closed fist saluted and spurred his horse to catch up with him. The protectors stared at him and slowly opened up a path. He arrived in front of King Jing. King Jing and Consort Jing were riding slowly on their horses, sizing him up from their horses. Greetings, Your Royal Highness, Consort Jing. Chu Li went forward and closed fist saluted. No need for formalities. King Jing waved his hand and said, "It's been a while since we last met. Head Chief, you're still as elegant as ever." Chu Li smiled. "Your Royal Highness, you flatter me." King Jing had always been dignified and quiet. It was not easy for him to say that. "Is everything all right at the Imperial Mausoleum?" King Jing asked. Chu Li shook his head. "Everything's the same." King Jing nodded slowly. "Third brother passed away at such a young age. I'm heartbroken, but I can't remember an old friend. I can only take care of King An's imperial residence. If there's anything in the residence, you can look for me directly." "Thank you, Your Royal Highness," Chu Li said. Consort Jing smiled. "Ask the consort to come to my residence often and play with me. I'm free too." "Yes, Consort Jing," Chu Li said. Consort Jing said, "It's not easy for younger Sister Xiao to be widowed at such a young age. As a woman, I understand. Don't hold back if there's anything. Just look for me." "Thank you, Consort Jing," Chu Li said. You may leave," King Jing said. Chu Li closed fist saluted and left. He understood that King Jing was trying to rope him in. Of course, he would not say it out loud. He would leave some leeway to avoid making things difficult for each other. He returned to King An's imperial residence. Xiao stared at him with her deep eyes. Xiao Qi and the other ladies were curious too. Chu Li smiled. King Jing intends to take care of King An's imperial residence. If there's anything, just look for him. Consort Jing has invited the 3 consorts to visit King Jing's imperial residence often. Xiao was unusually sharp. She tilted her head and looked at him. "Looks like King Jing values your intelligence." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "I'm ashamed." "What do you plan to do?" Xiao scoffed. Chu Li said, "I don't deserve it." Xiao rolled her eyes at him. King Jing's imperial residence suddenly sped up. They followed suit. When they passed the imperial enclosure and continued eastward, they arrived at a crowning altar. A tall altar was erected on the flat square. It was about 10 meters tall. There were all sorts of mysterious symbols carved on the altar. This crowning altar was guarded all year round to prevent unauthorized personnel from getting close. Chu Li also noticed that the green bricks on the ground were also carved with strange symbols. They resonated with the altar and blended into one. Chapter 1143. He didn't find anything special about it. It seemed that these symbols were only for decoration, deliberately mystifying, and didn't have the slightest energy reaction. However, he had a faint feeling that it wasn't that simple. After all, this was the heaven offering altar, a place that connected to the heavens beyond the heavens. There were definitely mysteries behind it. Thus, he imprinted all the symbols into his mind and studied them in detail. He looked at Xiao Qi in surprise. Previously, his attention had been attracted by these mysterious symbols, and he had not paid attention to the people at the scene. The wide and flat square was already packed with people. There were ministers and their families, as well as relatives of the emperor. It was very lively. He saw Xiao Taiying in the crowd. Other than Xiao Taiying, there was also Lu Yulo. Other than that, there were 10 other young men with them. They were surrounded by a group of guards from the imperial house, and the security was much stricter than that of the royal family's disciples. These imperial house protectors were all top-notch masters with more than 200 years of experience. They were all internal guards of the imperial house, and were comparable to the inner mausoleum protectors. Chu Li glanced around, but did not see the emperor. Xiao Qi was standing beside him. When she heard his voice, she turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" "Big brother is here. Do you know?" Chu Li asked. Xiao Qi was stunned and shook her head. Big brother didn't say anything. The news from the House of High Dukes was extremely fast, especially since she was connected to the House of High Dukes' Jade Sparrow. She could receive news from the House of High Dukes at any time. If Big Brother was going to come over, he would probably tell her in advance. Chu Li smiled and said, "Big Brother is indeed here. Other than Master Xiao Taiying, it seems that the rest of the High Dukes' public houses are here too. It seems that this grand ceremony is quite grand. All 12 High Dukes' public houses are attending." "So be it. Why do you have to keep it a secret?" Xiao Qi frowned. Chu Li said, "Maybe they're afraid that someone will ruin it." Xiao Qi nodded. Very quickly, a guard from the imperial house came over to instruct everyone to stand in their respective positions. The densely packed crowd gradually separated into several groups in an orderly manner. Chu Li and the others were the furthest away, as the chancellors were in front of them. The heaven worship altar was about 20 meters tall. Even from afar, one could clearly see everything on the altar. A loud voice resounded throughout the entire heavenly worship altar. "The heavenly worship ceremony begins. Welcome the emperor." This loud and clear voice drowned out everyone's voices. Everyone fell silent and looked up. It was as if the sun had fallen from the sky, causing everyone to close their eyes involuntarily. When they opened their eyes again, an old man in a bright yellow dragon robe was already standing on the altar. It was the Emperor Lung Wufeng. Lung Wufeng's gaze swept across the people one by one. "My subjects, I'm conferring the crown prince today, and I'm here to report this to the beyond heaven. Where's the crown prince?" King Jing slowly stepped onto the crowning heaven altar and gave a fist salute. "Greetings, father." Lung Wufeng nodded in satisfaction. Then he turned to look at the others. "Where are the 12 dukes?" Xiao Taiying, Lu Yulo, and the other young men slowly made their way to the crowning heaven altar. When they arrived in front of Lung Wufeng, they cupped their hands and bowed. "Greetings, your majesty. 12 heirs, do you object to my crown prince?" Lung Wufeng looked at the 12 heirs and asked in a deep voice. The 12 junior dukes were silent for a moment before they slowly shook their heads. "Agreed, agreed, agreed." 12 voices of agreement rang out in succession. Their voices weren't loud, but they rang clearly in everyone's ears. Chu Li turned to look at Xiao Qi and lowered his voice. "Are they allowed to object?" "Yes." Xiao Qi nodded. "The 12 high dukes have the right to object to the heir to the throne." Chu Li pondered. Xiao Qi said, "If one of the 12 high dukes objects, the heir won't be able to inherit the throne, but every high duke only has one chance to object." Chu Li slowly nodded. It was not easy to fight for the throne. If it was not justifiable, a high duke could veto all efforts, and it would be extremely difficult for Su and to become the emperor. Lung Wufeng said, "All right, since the 12 high dukes have no objections, please show us the high duke token." The 12 heirs to the high dukes moved swiftly and surrounded the emperor and King Jing in the middle, forming a circle. Then they took out a black sword-shaped token from their bosoms and raised it high above their heads. The tip of the sword was pointed diagonally upwards as they closed their eyes and started channeling. Chu Li's eyes flickered as he observed the heart techniques of the heirs in his mind. He realized that their heart techniques were different, and the heart technique to activate each token was different. The crowd held their breaths as they stared at the 12 Hajduk tokens. They were extremely curious about the tokens. As time passed, the Hajduk tokens underwent a wonderful change. The black tokens began to emit a faint luster that was so dark that it was shiny. Then the luster grew brighter and slowly spread upward, upward, and upward. Eventually, the luster began to converge above their heads. The 12 lusters seemed to be black and shiny, but they were all different. When they merged, they formed a milky white luster. The milky white luster was like moonlight. It was as if the moon had fallen and shone on their faces, making them look solemn. Lung Wufeng and King Jing, who were in the middle, looked solemn. Lung Wufeng took out 2 black sword-shaped tokens, one big and one small, and passed the smaller one to King Jing. King Jing closed his eyes to channel while Lung Wufeng sat with his legs crossed and placed the token between his brows. The milky white luster suddenly entered Lung Wufeng's token as if it had never appeared. Lung Wufeng's black token did not react at all. The crowd's vision darkened, and they looked at Lung Wufeng's token in confusion. Lung Wufeng's body quivered a little, and his body began to emit a luster that grew brighter and brighter. In the end, the luster disappeared into the black token. Then, the token shone all of a sudden, and a golden light that was as thick as a fist shot into the sky. The sky lit up all of a sudden, and a light door slowly appeared. The door of light was incomparably huge. Under the illumination of the golden light, the huge door of light slowly opened, and everyone could see the pavilions and palaces inside. There were graceful women flying around, carefree men coming and going, as well as strange flowers and trees that were faintly discernible. The crowd knew that this was the Outland, so they craned their necks to look at it. They wished they could just fly up there. Chu Li frowned when he sensed the boundless energy faintly appearing on the light door. He was not worth mentioning in front of this energy. All of a sudden, a vague shadow emerged from the top of Lung Wufeng's head and landed on the golden token. The golden light shone on it, and it became as solid as a real person. It was only the size of a palm, and it looked like a miniature version of Lung Wufeng. The miniature person had clear features, and one could even see his calm and solemn expression. He looked like he was only about 30 years old, and he was real. The miniature person nodded at the crowd and looked up at the light door. Then he glided up along the golden light pillar and appeared in front of the huge light door in the blink of an eye. Then he stepped in. The crowd gasped in admiration. This was the power of an enlightened master, which allowed him to reach the Outland. Chu Li was shocked. He had seen the Holy Church of Light's disciples enter the Great Light Surpassing State, which was also in the Outland, but it was not as clear and vast as this. It was as if he was closer, and he could feel the boundless energy. Chapter 1144. P.S. Update complete. King Jing was channeling his energy while holding the black badge. He ignored everything around him and did not look up at the giant light door. The light ball suddenly appeared above his head and entered through his Bai Hui acupuncture point. His body shone brightly. His beard and purple robe fluttered as he slowly floated up and hovered 10 meters in the air as if he was in a strong wind. The people looked at him curiously, then at the smaller Lung Wufeng, who was standing in front of the light door. Lung Wufeng seemed to be looking down before he descended along the golden light pillar and returned to the top of King Jing's head in an instant. The golden light pillar disappeared. As the giant light door in the sky slowly disappeared, a graceful voice was faintly heard. The people were mesmerized by it and could not pull themselves away. When Chu Li heard the graceful voice, he vaguely felt that it was similar to the Tian Luo sect's musical assassination technique. It seemed like the Tian Luo sect had a powerful background as well. It was probably a heart technique passed down from the Outland. He had to study it carefully and not underestimate it. Lung Wufeng slowly opened his eyes and gave a fist salute to the 12 high dukes to thank them. He was in high spirits, as if he was bathed in a layer of light that was warm and clear. He did not look like an ordinary person, but a deity. The chancellors around him felt an inexplicable sense of respect. Xiao Taiying and the other 12 high dukes returned the gesture. Their faces were pale, and they looked weak, as if they had just gone through a great battle. The light from the high duke badge had depleted their inner energy, so they needed to recuperate. The light on King Jing's body slowly receded and dimmed. Finally, it vanished into his body, and he gently landed on the ground. Chu Li could feel the surging force from King Jing's body. Although it was not as strong as Lung Wufeng's, it was already shocking. His cultivation level had skyrocketed, and he was even stronger than Chu Li. Chu Li initially thought that even if he could not defeat an enlightened master, he could easily defeat a grandmaster. However, after witnessing King Jing's cultivation level, he knew that he had to work harder. King Jing slowly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with cold electricity. When their eyes met, Chu Li felt like his eyes were being burned, and he dared not look him in the eye. Shao Qi exclaimed softly, "What a powerful cultivation level!" Chu Li nodded. Seeing is believing. The Outland was indeed the Outland. The power of a single light ball was truly powerful. This one move was equivalent to hundreds of years of cultivation by others. How could such a method not be respected, feared, and envied? Lung Wufeng said in a deep voice, "From today onward, King Jing will be conferred the title of Crown Prince by the Outland. You've worked hard. Please go ahead." Chu Li kept staring at the crowning heaven altar. When the 12 High Duke medallions were activated, the runes on the medallions seemed to be flowing with a faint aura. It seemed like there was something special about them, but they did not affect the medallions. It seemed like without them, the medallions could still unleash enough power to open the gate to beyond heaven and send Lung Wufeng up. Chu Li frowned and pondered. These symbols seemed to have appeared when the High Duke's order was activated. The strangeness was the most obvious when the divine gate was opened. Once the divine gate was closed, the strangeness disappeared. Could it be that these symbols were related to the realm beyond heaven? With a flash of light, Lung Wufeng and King Jing disappeared from the altar. Shao Qi said, "Second eldest sister, let Big Brother rest in the imperial residence." "Okay." Shao Shi nodded. The people around the crowning heaven altar remained quiet. No one spoke loudly because they were all shocked by the scene earlier. Chu Li shook his head. This scene was more effective than any words. It made people respect and loyal. When the 12 Air High Dukes left the altar, the imperial house's internal guards quickly went forward and surrounded them. They were afraid that someone would take the opportunity to cause trouble, so they escorted them away. Shao Qi fluttered over and called out, "Big Brother!" Xiao Taiying looked over and smiled. He quickly waved at her. "Little younger sister." Shao Qi waved at him and said, "Don't rush back. Come to the imperial residence to rest." "All right." Xiao Taiying hesitated for a while before he nodded. He smiled at the 4 imperial house's internal guards beside him. "There's no need to trouble you, sirs. I have the imperial residence's protectors here. It's fine." The 4 elders with white eyebrows and beards shook their heads. "Heir Xiao, we've been ordered to send you back to the High Duke's public house." "We can't leave." One of the elders said, "We don't dare to stop you from going anywhere. but we'll have to follow closely. All right, I'll have to trouble you then. Xiao Taiying smiled. Xiao Taiying walked in front of Xiao Qi and looked at her. Little younger sister, you look good. Xiao Qi smiled. Big brother, why didn't you greet us before you came? I didn't have time. Xiao Taiying shook his head. We came here in secret, no one knows. We only left a letter for your sister-in-law. Xiao Qi said, let's go, second eldest sister is waiting over there. The two of them and the 4 imperial house's internal guards came to Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and fist saluted, calling him big brother. Xiao Taiying was elated. Although the siblings often met up, Chu Li would often bring Xiao Qi and Xiao Shi back to the High Duke's public house and stay for a night or two before returning to the imperial residence when no one was paying attention. However, he was exceptionally happy to be able to meet them in Fairy's capital. On the way back, Chu Li and Xiao Taiying walked side by side. The protectors around them spread out and kept a distance between them. Big brother, the High Duke's public house has the right to deny the succession of the throne. If King Jing doesn't ascend the throne in the future, will the High Duke's public house really object? Chu Li pondered. Under normal circumstances, it won't. Isn't it the same for every emperor? There's no difference to the High Duke's public house. So why should we object? Unless the High Duke's public house has an obligation to object to the emperor's public house. If not, this right will not be used. Chu Li said, then can the High Duke's public house appoint the emperor? You guessed it. Xiao Taiying looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, I have a vague feeling. He felt that after the light from the 12 High Duke's orders entered the emperor's token, it did not become stronger. It was still them, and then opened the door to the outland. He thought that even without the emperor's token, the 12 High Duke's tokens could still open the door to the outland. In that case, they might be able to reach heaven and decide the successor to the throne. Xiao Taiying looked around and said in a low voice, this is a big secret of the High Duke's public house. It can't be leaked. Chu Li said, to be able to abolish the throne, it really can't be leaked. This would damage the imperial family's prestige, and it would be a taboo for the High Duke's public house. He pondered again and said, this kind of throne isn't easy, right? When the imperial family is weak, it's time for the High Duke's public house to stand up. When the imperial family is strong, the High Duke's public house will hide outside. The throne must be of the Lung family's bloodline. If others can't do it, there will be some other price to pay, Xiao Taiying said slowly. Chu Li nodded. Once the crown prince is confirmed, the emperor's throne will be as stable as a rock. Can there be any accidents? Of course, Xiao Taiying said. If the crown prince is unpopular and arrogant, he will have no chance to be the emperor. Chu Li nodded. That's good. Xiao Taiying looked at Chu Li. Chu Li, why are you so concerned about the emperor's throne? Has King Ping not given up yet? He knew that Chu Li and King Ping were close. Chu Li smiled and did not refute. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.